The ringing of bells came from St. Mary's Church. The bride entered the hall and was introduced as Aaron Regman. From a formal point of view, this should have been a flawless ducal wedding, so the girl should not have worried. However, the looks of the guests clearly revealed disgust, contempt, and disdain. Some guests even looked with lust. In all this, you won't find the joy of an ordinary wedding even during the day with fire. The priest blessed the beautiful man and woman. Aaron stood at the altar and thought that none of these wishes would come true. Today, the girl was marrying a man who despises her and will cut her throat. As before, misfortune will overtake the helpless Aaron. The guy demanded that the girl give him everything she had, including money and valuables. She did not understand whether he had really taken up gambling again. The guy was very angry that she talked too much. After all, thanks to him, she was still alive. Emily did not back down. The guy had already borrowed so much money from her that he could not return it. Out of anger, he pushed the girl. There was a staircase behind her. It was an absurd death, marking the end of her next miserable day. After a while, Emily woke up and could not understand what had happened and what kind of girl she saw in the reflection of the mirror. She assumed that her soul had moved into another body. A maid came into the room to remind Lady Aaron what day it was. The girl turned around. She was confused by how she was called, like the heroine from the novel Refuse Obsession, which she read last night. Lizzie Sinclair, the illegitimate daughter of an earl, is bright, innocent, and beautiful as the goddess of spring. Because of her background, she was bullied by the Count's family and had an unhappy childhood. And then Lizzie caught the eye of the Ludwig spouses and went to live in the duchy, where she met fierce competition without concessions for winning her heart. And this is where the obsession from the title begins. Aaron's role in this novel is simple, stupid, and greedy. The stupid villainess, blinded by love and tainted by jealousy, constantly carried out sabotage, trying to harm Lizzie. Blinded by jealousy, Aaron did everything she could to kill Lizzie. Having the Count as a caring father, she grew up never worrying about money. Having gathered the Countess, the nanny said that everything was ready, and the girl was probably already expected. Aaron thanked her and started running. The nanny turned around in surprise when she heard the words of gratitude. The girl decided that she needed to correct the mistakes of the main character, especially since she remembers the whole plot. She came up with the idea that if she behaved well, she could get the love of her family for free. She ran into her father's room to wish him good morning, but it didn't take long for Aaron's expectations to be shattered. The Count had already been drinking wine since the morning. He was not pleased that his daughter dared to call such a late-hour morning. Since the Countess arrived too late, he kicked her out, ordering her to close the door from the back. Synchronization of information from memory has started. The girl was wrong about Aaron's image, an arrogant villainess, but that was just her outward appearance. Aaron was locked up. She begged to be released from the dungeon. The Count believed that the girl should pay for being fed and raised. To everyone else, Aaron was just a walking billboard for the family, decked out in luxurious dresses and expensive jewelry. At home, the girl was a target for beatings, even from the servants. Aaron was the most expensive doll of Count Regman. The father yelled at his daughter that she had been out of her mind since the morning. Today, there was no way to make a mistake. You couldn't give people a reason to notice even one flaw. Aaron agreed with everything, thinking in her mind about why she had such a family in a past life and in this one. She decided to review the information again. The current Duke Ludwig and Count Regman had been rivals since childhood. At that time, the power of the two families was close to equal, but Count Ludwig's family contributed more to the war and received the title of Duke. Count Regman believed that the title of Duke had been blatantly stolen from under his nose, so he married Aaron in order to find information through her to destroy the dukedom. It could hardly be called luck, but in her past life, Aaron knew how to find ways to survive in unfavorable situations. If she did not behave like Aaron in the original, she would definitely be able to survive. In novels in which the heroine is reborn into a villain, there is always some kind of crisis at the beginning, so the girl decided today to behave not like a real countess. A huge palace appeared before the girl. They arrived in the Ludwig Duchy. The butler greeted the Counts of Rigman and invited them to go inside, where the Duke and Duchess were waiting for them. Turning to Aaron, the Count smiled at his daughter and gently hurried her along. The girl thought that her father's attitude had changed dramatically, but she didn't really care, since she decided to leave this house in a week. Aaron was in a pleasant shock, because in front of her sat the characters of the book she loved, especially such beautiful characters. The Duchess politely asked if the guests were hungry, and assured that very soon the dishes would be served on the table, and they would start eating. The girl drew attention to the main male character, Cliff, as she thought he was incredibly handsome. His eyes were golden in color, as if they were about to melt. Then, her attention was attracted by a girl who looked like the goddess of spring. Most likely it was Lizzie. If it was Lizzie, then Aaron's future husband was sitting next to her. The Countess could not come to her senses after realizing that she was going to fall in love with this guy. But now, at least, it became clear why the real heroine clung to him so much. A straight and sharp nose and jawline, together creating an arrogant image. This guy's wide chest, thin waist, and hips. Aaron realized that she was looking at the guy too clearly. Embarrassed, she decided that she needed to pull herself together. Long live the world of aristocrats. Finally, the performance began. The Count claimed that his parental heart still could not calm down, and he simply could not send his daughter away. He would like Aaron to take several maids with her, since with them the girl will certainly be more comfortable. Smiling tactfully, the Duchess said that their maids were second to none. The Count was persistent. He asked the Duchess if she really didn't bring one when she got married. Aaron turned all attention to herself, apologizing to the Duke for her father and asking him to forget about this request, since his father can be understood as worried because his daughter is getting married very young. On the way home, the Count began to unbearably shout at his daughter that she not only did not help him, but also became the biggest hindrance. From this moment on, the story will begin in earnest. Aaron tried to convince her father that he was wrong, since his request was too obvious, and it was clear that the Duke and Duchess understood why they wanted to bring the maids, and they should, on the contrary, be convinced of the purity of their intentions. Count Rigman began to listen to his daughter, but he did not understand what she could do if she was there alone. The girl was convinced that she should go there alone. If nothing happened, then the Duke and Duchess would lower their guard. It was urgent to dispel all suspicions. After Aaron gained their trust, she would say that she missed home or ask to bring one of the maids. Starting from that day and for a whole week, Aaron seemed to walk on the edge of a knife. And finally, she stood in a wedding dress. The girl knew that after the exchange of rings, everything would be over. It seems Aaron's husband was uncomfortable with even the slightest touch from his wife. Finally, the girl had a life in which she could leisurely enjoy peace and pursue hobbies without worrying about being hit by her father or older brother. Aaron finally felt alive. There was a knock on the girl's room, and it was Lizzie who came. It was clear that the girl was afraid, but she stood firm. She came to tell Aaron something. The girl remembered that such an episode happened immediately after the wedding. After the ceremony, Lizzie visits Aaron and wants to apologize for Killian's rudeness. However, her apology angers Aaron even more. She couldn't blame the cold Killian, so all the anger was directed at Lizzie for wearing a white dress to their wedding. Smiling, the girl understood why this happened, but she, and not her heroine, had no reason to be angry with the little goddess. The little girl said that although Killian seems cold, he has a very warm heart. Aaron wondered how she could hate such a beauty. Bright, shiny blonde hair that seems to shine on its own, big light blue eyes, pure and innocent, such a sweet appearance, and a kind, righteous heart, an obligatory character in a novel about being caught in the body of a villain. Erin reassured Lizzie that she had nothing to worry about, especially since this marriage was an agreement between their families, so there was no point in her being offended by Killian. The little goddess began to shine because Lady Erin turned out to be so kind and mature. The Countess complimented the girl that her dress suited her perfectly, and she couldn't even compare with her. Lizzie blushed. The baby said goodbye to the mistress. Erin thought the girl was very cute. She wanted to cuddle her. At this point, the wedding episode ended. The girl was left alone, so she decided to spend time usefully and relax. Her calm was disturbed by the sudden arrival of Killian. He was outraged that his newly made wife was taking a bath without him. He did not understand his wife's surprise, suggesting that she was waiting for someone else. The thing was that this was not in the book, so the girl did not expect this. How it pissed Erin off that Killian was both so handsome and such a jerk. She had no reason to hate the guy, and she didn't even have the strength to be angry with him. She said that she didn't expect to see him here, after the wedding ceremony, where he didn't even allow him to put a ring on him. Erin asked if her husband was going to sleep here. He turned around angrily and left without saying a word. The girl froze in bewilderment, and why Killian came at all was not clear. On the way from the bride's room, Leahy met the guy and asked if he was not in this room. Killian said that he was there, but Erin, like him, had no expectations for that night, as he found her lying in the bathroom, almost dozing. Lizzie couldn't believe it and tried to justify the Countess. The young Duke interrupted her, and patting her on the head, said that she thought too well of everyone. Killian reminded the little girl of what kind of person Count Rigman is and what his intentions are regarding this wedding. Just in this way, they mock the Ludwig family. Lisi remembered Erin's words regarding the wedding. The guy realized that the girl knew something and demanded to tell him. She said that Lady Erin complimented her dresses, and she immediately blushed. Misunderstanding, Killian thought that Lizzie was being reprimanded for wearing clothes she didn't choose. The little goddess explained that she only praised and did not say anything else. The lady must have been upset after hearing these assumptions. The guy laughed. He reminded Lizzie of Erin's dress, not at all luxurious, slutty, and insanely indecent. Lizzie's pupils widened in surprise that Killian called his wife indecent. She couldn't wrap her head around how such a thing could be said. Changing the subject, the guy asked if there was anything else the girl wanted to tell him. It was as if she wanted to tell or ask about something, but she didn't dare say it. Killian interrupted her and asked if she wanted to know how he felt. The conversation between the two was interrupted by Cliff approaching them. Lizzie was delighted to see him, but Killian, on the contrary, drooped. The next morning, even after all the agony of yesterday, Erin woke up on time. She had never felt so good in her life. Deciding that since she has a healthy body, she needs to think more positively. If she succeeds, she can live like a sweet daughter-in-law. The girl recalled the plot. Killian was a minor character in love with Lizzie, but his parents could have been completely different. The Duke and Duchess of Ludwig, who warmly received Lizzie, could have opened their hearts to Erin. Otherwise, everything did not go very smoothly at their first meeting. To begin with, greeting them seemed like a great idea to the girl. One of the basic rules for surviving in a novel with rebirth into the body of a villain was, of course, to gain the trust of the main and minor characters. In fact, if Erin wants to survive in the Ludwig family, the opinion of the Duke and Duchess is much more important than Killian's. All she wanted was to enjoy life quietly, somewhere in the corner of the mansion. To do this, the girl definitely needed to win the trust of the Ludwigs. She decided that not a single mother-in-law would hate her daughter-in-law who came to say hello the next morning after the wedding. Erin discovered the very bell that she read about in books. With the help of him and the maids, transforming into a daughter-in-law will not be difficult. When the bell rang, a maid came, and the lady asked to be prepared to leave. The Countess decided first to meet the maid, who introduced herself as Anna. Erin asked Anna if all the clothes she brought with her were really so fluffy and vulgar. The maid confirmed this. The lady came to the conclusion that if she wore something like that, the Duke and Duchess would be horrified, and this meeting was unlikely to be pleasant. Lady Erin asked the maid to go to the workshop and ask her clothes to be altered so that her breasts were covered, and to get rid of those nasty ruffles. The Countess suddenly remembered that yesterday was her wedding night. Should she make a few bloody stains on the bed? She decided not to focus on this. Otherwise, if she did it herself, Killian would obviously not be happy. In the original story, Killian was willing to give his all for Lizzie. Erin's mind flashed to the guy's arrival yesterday. Did he really appear so suddenly just to quarrel? Be that as it may, the girl was pleased to see Killian's handsome face twice in one day. Before Erin had time to dream about her husband, her hairstyle and dress were already ready. She caught herself thinking that she herself had decided that she was not interested in the guy, and now all morning she was thinking only about him. Erin greeted their graces the Duke and Duchess, saying that she had come to see if they had slept well. The Duchess said that the girl must have been tired yesterday, but she still came early in the morning to greet them, and it was clear from her face that they were flattered by it. Accepting the invitation to sit down, Erin found another cup of tea. Probably it was for her. The girl was sure that the Ludwigs had already been informed that their son had not slept with her. The Duke began the dialogue by saying that he knew that the Count raised the girl as his favorite daughter. He wondered if she knew anything about running a business as the mistress of an aristocrat's house. Without hesitation, Erin answered that she knew how to handle a budget, do management, and work with documents, pointing out that in the duchy they might do it all differently, but if she was taught this, she would learn everything quickly. The Duke replied that it seemed that the Count had taught her only this properly. Erin knew that they would not be too kind to her. But now, the man was so brazenly talking about the fact that she came here to steal documents. The girl got out of this situation, saying that if she didn't deserve their trust, then they could teach her something else, and she would undoubtedly cope. The Duchess interrupted her husband, saying that it was great that the Count taught her everything, which means she will be able to help her in 2 weeks, and if she needs something, then let her tell her right now. Erin asked to introduce a person to her who would introduce her to the estate. The woman promised to find a good guide. After leaving the room, the girl stopped to catch her breath. Her breath was so stale that she thought she would die. A stranger approached her, asking if she was okay. Smiling, Erin said that everything was fine. She was just a little worried. Baron Renan Filch stood in front of the girl. The Duchess instructed Erin to be introduced to the estate by the Duke's assistant, who, as a servant, was responsible for his paperwork, as well as Anna, who was introduced to her by a maid, were not even mentioned in the original work, so Erin was a little nervous with people about whom she had no information. Baron Renan asked if she wanted to make a round right now, but he had a lot of work today, so he couldn't spare much time. Having apologized, the Countess hurried to begin her rounds right away. The first thing that appeared before her was the jewelry room, in which the family jewels of the duchy were kept. They could also be worn for celebrations. The next room was where weapons and armor were stored. This room was mainly used by his lordship and 2 gentlemen. All of this was made by the hands of famous craftsmen. The great library was the heart of the duchy and contained many rare books. Renan explained that any member of the Duke's family could enter the library at any time. The same goes for the Sistine Hall, where new works of art are exhibited every month. Erin was very happy about this opportunity because in her previous life she could not go to exhibitions because the ticket price was too high for her. But here, one might say, the museum is right at home. Next, the Countess came across the Sistine Hall. Here she had no words to describe all the beauty around. Since the estate was huge, the Baron said that they would stop here today. Erin thanked him. She was amazed at what a beautiful place she lived in. The girl complimented the guy. She had a very beautiful voice, and in itself it was very eloquent. She did not notice how time flew by. Renan Filch became embarrassed, saying that he was only doing his job, and if she didn't mind, then he would conduct the rest of the excursion the day after tomorrow. Since they were passing by this place, he decided to tell Aaron about the large terrace. It was convenient to look into the courtyard from it. It is often used when guests come to the estate. His lordship likes to sit there and talk. On this terrace, Aaron saw Lizzie, Cliff, and Killian having a pleasant conversation, her husband not taking his eyes off the little goddess. The Baron was at a loss as to why Mr. Killian was there. Of course, the newly made groom had been drinking tea with another woman since the morning. His bewilderment was quite natural. The girl tried to remember what her heroine did in the real story. Aaron got ready to leave, calling Renan with her and reminding him that he had business. The first question the Duke asked his assistant was what he thought of Aaron. The Baron reported that the girl listened to him attentively. Surprisingly, she quickly understood the structure of the estate. She especially liked the Sistine Hall. Renan Filch did not notice anything strange in her. Contrary to rumors, the girl showed herself to be very worthy. The Baron remembered that something had happened. When they walked through the large terrace after the excursion, they came across Lizzie drinking tea in the company of two young gentlemen. The Duke immediately changed his face. He asked his son not to give rise to complaints, especially since seeing the groom flirting with someone else immediately after the wedding was imperturbable. His lordship explained to his son that Count Rigmon would not take the side of Archduke Langston. He needed to be patient until the end of this year, but he immediately broke his promise. Renan began to reassure the gentleman that Aaron did not even pay attention to this. Of course, it is not known what was in her thoughts, but in order not to raise a scandal, she simply left, pretending that nothing had happened. The Duke grinned. Aaron Regman turned out to be quite an unusual girl. After lunch, a maid came to Aaron's table to clean everything up. Maybe because the girl tried to eat only at home, it was very uncomfortable for her to sit and not help the maid. The lady praised Anna and suggested that she go to lunch if she had not already had lunch. The maid looked at her with bewilderment, but thanked her for her concern. At that moment, Aaron thought that her words might arouse suspicion. The girl thought that she had made a good impression on the Duke and Duchess, so she could breathe out for now. But she only had to decide how to treat Lizzie. Lizzie Sinclair was destined to become the main heroine of this world. However, her life was not simple until she fell into the Ludwig family. Sinclair's son and daughter constantly bullied Lizzie, an illegitimate child, and their home became a prison where she was constantly oppressed. Thanks to her helping Duchess Ludwig from falling off her horse, Lizzie caught her attention. Angered by the harsh treatment of the good-natured girl, the Ludwigs bought the rights to the girl for huge sums of money from Sinclair. The Sinclair family, hastily renouncing parental rights, missed the opportunity to become related to the dukedom. They later went bankrupt and greatly regretted it. By the end of the book, there is not a single positive character left with a bad ending. Unlike Aaron, the girl's real life, one might say, was full of troubles from beginning to end. During the year of work in the company, the management abused their position so many times. She broke up with her boyfriend via text when she saw him going to a motel with another woman. The girl went home, thinking that now she would only read novels while lying in bed. But she suddenly died after falling down the stairs. Aaron wondered if her parents were worried about her, but they were probably more interested in the fate of her brother. So she decided that now she would only worry about herself. Under the tree, the Countess saw Lizzie reading a book. She wondered if maybe instead of avoiding her, she should go and befriend her. At that moment, she saw Killian approach the little goddess. The guy asked what she was reading. The girl was reading the history of the imperial family, since she still had not received a proper education. Due to the fact that Lizzie did not know much, it was difficult for the Duke to determine the girl's future. The guy said that if she wants to study, he will be happy to help. She should just tell her if she needs something. Aaron believed that this was expected of a minor character. Cliff would have told the girl not to worry about it and just live for her pleasure. and he would be there. Just as the Countess decided to stop eavesdropping when she heard it was about her, Lizzie didn't understand how Killian had left his wife again. Finally, Erin heard what her husband thought of her, that she was just a hostage here who would stay here for a while and then disappear. Throwing a cup of tea on the floor, the blonde girl grabbed her head and screamed, "Why this girl? Why this damn girl of all people?" The blonde girl was Layla Sinclair, the youngest daughter of the Sinclairs. At the cry, her brother, Damien Sinclair, the eldest son of the Sinclairs, entered the room. He immediately realized that his sister was furious that Erin Rigman had married Killian Ludwig. The girl could not understand why Rigman, Damien said with ridicule that the Ludwigs had such a hobby of collecting useless things. Layla was even more angry that her brother was having fun with this situation, but he saw no point in being sad. She assumed that Damien knew something that she didn't. He decided to rewind time and asked his sister why these two decided to get married. What two families would get by marrying their children? First of all, Earl Rigman has the right to distribute the iron ore mined from the southern mines. In other words, he has the raw materials for making weapons. Layla had no idea why she needed this information or what weapons had to do with it. Power was now divided in such a way that between Archduke Langston, who was eager to become emperor, and the imperial faction, which supported the young emperor, it would be dangerous if the Archduke's side was able to produce weapons. Duke Ludwig, a representative member of the Emperor's faction, had to put Count Rigman on a leash to prevent him from siding with Langston. Layla didn't understand what was good about this. Did her brother really decide to explain why this marriage was needed by mocking her? This is where the fun began, whether Count Rigman was really on a leash. Damien knew that Erin Rigman's image of the arrogant villainess was completely false. He understood that it was not easy to believe in this, but it was so. All that remained was to watch how events would develop further. If they revealed this information at the right moment, then Rigman would be doomed. The Baron showed another exit to the terrace. Erin was surprised. She examined the estate little by little, but it still took a whole week to get around everything. As soon as the girl thought about what she should do now, Renan said that the Duchess asked him to tell her that she had a request for her. Regman Filch didn't understand her joy. He just couldn't imagine how hard it was for Erin to do nothing all this time. Thanks to Mr. Filch, the lady now knew her way around this mansion perfectly. She asked the guy. She turned out to be an excellent student. Adjusting his glasses, the guy said that he had been explaining everything to her for a week. It would be a shame if she forgot everything now. Knocking on the door of the Duchess's room, Lizzie answered, asking her to come in quickly. Erin was very happy that she would work together with Lizzie. Since she was just starting out, she asked the little goddess to teach her everything. Her face turned red again, and she said that she should be glad that her mistress considered her worthy to carry out the assignment. The Duchess noted that the girls were getting along well, and Erin apologized for not greeting her. The woman laughed, asking Lisi to help Erin with the paperwork. The Duchess walked from corner to corner. She was clearly waiting for someone, which is what the Countess asked her. It turned out that the lady had recently called the Taylors. The girl remembered that it seemed like there was such an episode in the original. A maid entered the room and reported that Taylors had arrived from the royal workshop and were waiting in the living room. The Duchess was delighted and asked the girls to finish everything and go with her to the living room. The older the woman got, the more often she chose similar designs each time. Having closed the catalog, the Duchess asked the girls to choose something to their taste. The situation for Erin turned out to be dangerous. Everything was obvious here. Either the Duchess would like Lizzie's design more, or the outfit she chose would receive more praise. The Countess decided that she needed to remain calm. In any case, victory and defeat were already predetermined. Even if we forget that Lizzie is the main character, she could certainly understand the mistress's tastes in 5 years. The little goddess chose a blue silk dress. She believed that it would perfectly highlight the beauty of the Duchess. The dressmaker appreciated the girl's choice. It was the latest design from their workshop, silk of the highest quality, from which the outfits of the imperial family are made. Aaron thought the mistress had a light skin tone, so any color would suit her, but blue would especially highlight the mistress's eyes. The woman asked if Aaron had chosen anything. The girl said that it would be difficult, because the dress that Lizzie had chosen was so gorgeous. However, if you wanted something new, then she could suggest this. The girl decided that this style would be suitable for those days when she wants to change her mood a little. The dressmaker noted that Aaron has a keen eye, because few people are able to appreciate the combination of these two colors. To the 21st century eye, this design is perfectly suited and worthy of a duchess. The lady thought about it. The dress was beautiful, but was the design too flashy for her? In any case, Aaron did not think about winning this confrontation. She was simply accumulating strength in order to someday defeat the main character. The girl said that Mother has beauty and dignity, so she will match this dress, and this is what embarrassed the Duchess. The woman decided to order these two dresses, and now choose something for Lizzie. The girl was very surprised by what she heard. She began to dissuade the Duchess from this idea, since she believed that anything would suit her, and she had enough of a dress. The lady pretended that she had not heard the girl's words, and began to select suitable dresses for her. Aaron and the Duchess were enthusiastically selecting outfits for Lizzie, while the girl tried to explain that she didn't need anything, but no one listened to her. As a result, they decided to settle on 5 dresses. The mistress realized that they had chosen dresses for everyone except Aaron. She immediately began to correct this situation and said that the girl could choose absolutely anything she liked. But the Countess did not need new dresses. She wanted to alter hers. Madame Royal said that she would be happy to alter her dresses. Anna brought dresses, and Aaron asked to remove all the jewelry from the dresses and sew up the too large neckline. The Countess wondered if she collected all the diamond beads on the dresses, how much it would cost. Returning to her room, she found Killian standing next to her. Aaron wondered why Killian couldn't show up in front of her room for no reason. Before she had time to ask what happened, the guy demanded that she follow him. As it turned out, Lizzie wanted to invite Aaron to a tea party. It is obvious that it was she who sent Killian for his wife. Even from the back, the guy looked great. His broad shoulders, as if he had been a swimmer in the past, narrow waist. For the first time, Aaron's heart fluttered at the sight of a man's body. The guy was gorgeous. Killian turned around. The Countess became embarrassed, hoping that he did not notice how she was looking at him. In a rough voice, he warned Aaron to watch her language in front of Lizzie. She was like family to them, and much more important than Aaron. The girl lowered her head and said that these words hurt her. Killian asked if anything could hurt her, if she was a human and not a snake. Aaron quipped, calling the guy very polite, asking if she should treat Lady Lisi in accordance with the manners of the Duke's son. She had the feeling that her husband wanted to ruin her mood and make her look like a terrible woman. Unfortunately for him, the girl was not one to be easily angered. However, hurting her was a completely different matter. Finally appearing on the terrace, Aaron thanked Lady Lisi for the invitation. Cliff asked if the Countess was taking on too much work. She just got married. Shouldn't she go on a trip with Killian? Laughing, Aaron said that her husband was very busy right now, although in her head she thought that Cliff wanted to send them on a trip and take care of Lizzie himself. The brother asked Killian if now was not the best time to explore the lands. Because winter was already over, he agreed. Because this made sense. Cliff invited Lizzie to go with him, as she once said that she would like to go on a trip. Without giving the girl a chance to answer, Killian said that her brother was putting her in an awkward position and asked her not to pay attention to his words. Right now, these 3 were like good siblings. But once Cliff left, it would look like the remaining 2 were in a relationship, and it would be impossible to avoid bad rumors about Lady Lizzie. Maybe because the guy was the main character, his thinking was different. He asked what Lady Erin thought about this. What does she think about the fact that he is the only one who will leave this mansion, and about the situation between her, Killian, and Lizzie? The girl froze in place. This question took her by surprise. It was too brazen even for Cliff. Of course she was not in a position to be loved, but to be mocked like that was too much. Everyone in this family had no manners at all, Erin thought, putting down her cup of tea. She said that she didn't care about this situation. The girl got out of it by saying that inspecting the lands is the responsibility of the heir to the dukedom. So these are the direct responsibilities of Mr. Cliff. And what right does she have to tell him to go or not? In the end, Erin added that if she was honest about whether Lizzie should go with him or not, she believed that it would not be easy for the girl. Such a long carriage ride is quite difficult, and Lady Lizzie is not even Cliff's wife, so it is too burdensome to ask her to do this. The little goddess herself intervened in the conversation. She asked the guy if he needed to go for an examination right now. It was just words for now, but Cliff noticed that his daughter-in-law had a very generous heart. Killian was walking alone in the middle of the terrace late at night. Lizzie noticed him and asked what happened that he was walking alone so late. The guy said that everything was fine and changed the topic. He heard that the girl's mother ordered a lot of new dresses. Because of this, Lizzie constantly felt guilty as she was showered with gifts. Killian began to reassure her because it was not her fault that her mother was constantly jealous of families who had daughters, especially since Lizzie took care of the Duchess, so they should have been grateful to her. The Duchess's husband and sons were raised as knights, so she was lonely. Still, Lizzie believed that buying dresses for Erin would make her happier. The girl told Killian that the Countess did not choose a single dress, but asked to remake the ones that she brought with her, and she also helped him and the Duchess in choosing clothes. The guy couldn't believe his ears. Was this really the same Erin Rigman who never wore the same dress twice? Killian suddenly became angry. He misunderstood everything, thinking that his new wife was disgusted to buy a dress there. But buying a dress for Lizzie and his mother was normal. Did this girl really not like the atelier? At the wedding, she wore such a vulgar dress, and then suddenly began to wear completely different clothes. For some reason, today she didn't piss Killian off much, but when she showed her insides, everything fell into place. The guy's head was pounding from thinking about Erin. Lizzie asked again. He still didn't like the Countess. The guy still considered her a real snake. In his opinion, now she was just lying peacefully on the floor. But when everyone relaxes, she will definitely show her fangs. Anna came to Erin's room to tell her that she was running low on perfume and blush, and would need to invite a perfumer and a cosmetics dealer. The lady thought about it, because cosmetics will not be bought on their own, and now she will have to spend money on it. Erin's position in this story was very unstable, so she saved money to be prepared for the situation in which it appeared. The girl has been saving and storing all her life, so she doesn't know how to spend money at all. For her, going to the toilet and putting on worn-out lipstick was a luxury. She decided that since she had been reborn, she should now enjoy and try all the delights of life, so she asked Anna to invite a perfumer. After some time, a perfumer came and offered Erin a scent made from Ashley Rose, a style that many young girls prefer. A refreshing herbal scent combined with a hint of Ashley, wild strawberry, and botanical amber. The perfumer offered to reproduce a scent almost identical to this one if Erin wanted. The girl asked how much it would cost. One bottle the same size as hers would cost approximately 90,000 gold. The girl was beside herself with surprise, because for this bottle of perfume the amount required was more than twice what she spent on food for a month in her previous life. Anna asked what the perfumer could offer from other varieties of roses. The most commonly used variety was the Titania rose family. It was rich and long-lasting, so it is the first thing that comes to mind when talking about the scent of a rose. But this scent was too heavy for young girls. The perfumer insisted on Ashley, which Erin had used so far, or Thesis or Nathaniel roses. The same volume will cost about 200,000 gold, but the aroma will be luxurious and deeper than Ashley's roses. These amounts made the girl's head spin. Smiling stupidly, she said that it would be better to leave her scent. After all, suddenly changing perfume would be a little strange. Anna suggested mixing some of Nathaniel's rose with Ashley. Perhaps it would be more comfortable to use a more familiar scent. But since Aaron was now married, it would be nice to have a deeper scent. The perfumer considered this idea excellent, especially since it could cost about 130,000 gold. Aaron suggested that the man give her a discount because she didn't want people to say that she spent a lot of money immediately after marriage, and in return, she would turn to him next time. The perfumer liked that the Duke had a very thrifty daughter-in-law, so he had to give in. Anna said that she would go and tell her about the cosmetics that the Countess bought. Aaron could not forgive herself for spending such a huge amount of money on cosmetics, but only bought one perfume, blush, and a brush for them. Previously, she couldn't buy what she wanted because her hands were shaking. But now, she had money, but she couldn't use it, and that made her feel miserable. For her from a past life, who was robbed by her brother, who valued her meager salary, wasting money felt like a sin. She decided to give herself time to get used to spending money on luxury. Besides, there are many things that can be enjoyed in this life that money cannot buy. Erin decided to take a walk to the Sexton Hall. She felt as if she had rented an art museum. She saw no point in expensive perfume in front of this luxury. In front of the girl was a picture of extraordinary beauty. She could not take her eyes off it. From behind, Erin heard someone's footsteps. Turning around, she noticed Killian approaching her. She asked what he was doing here. The guy with a straight face said that it was strange that he came to look at his family's works of art. Killian again ran into conflict by saying that Rigman was not very interested in such art, so it must be surprising to her that such a place even existed. Erin smoothed things over by saying that she was truly shocked that one picture could contain so much emotion. The tragedy and cruelty of war is well shown, and in the man you can see the desire to put an end to the tragedy. However, it is clear that he is not at all happy about the praise of others, because war is not something you can be happy about, even if you win. Killian said that this work commemorates his grandfather's victory against the Yanok kingdom. The guy guessed, but it seemed like Erin didn't really know the story. Killian had never heard that the Countess was interested in art, and did not understand why she came to this room. But she said that when you get older, tastes change. Erin's husband wondered who her favorite author was. She was embarrassed by this question, since she had only recently become interested in art, so she did not know a single author. At that moment, the guy froze, as if he had seen something terribly unpleasant. When Killian was little, he was forced to become a model for an artist close to his father, but he did not know that his portrait was placed in the Sistine Hall. The guy noticed that Erin was peering at something for a long time. It began to infuriate him. The girl, after a pause, said that he was too small, turned around, and began to leave. Killian began shouting after her that, naturally, the model of the body was not him, but only his face in the picture. Erin pretended not to hear him, which irritated the guy even more. He began to prove to her that it was obvious. How could a noble son expose his entire body in front of an artist? Realizing that this conversation was useless, Killian said that it was useless to discuss art with Erin, turned around, and left. The girl returned to the picture with the words that, for sure, her husband now has more. 2 months have passed since the girl became Erin. She has adapted much better to the peaceful life of an aristocrat who needs to do a minimum of work than she thought. Of course, there were looks that looked at her with hostility, but the Anna Erin saw most often was always polite and treated the Countess with respect. Walking through the garden, the lady met Rian. Surprisingly, she had not met this guy for a long time. When asked by the Baron what she was doing here, Erin said that she was just taking a walk. The last few days she has been enjoying walks in the garden in the morning. Thanks to his excursions, she was well-oriented and often visited the Sistine Zone. Erin decided not to distract Rian anymore. He probably had a lot to do, so she said goodbye to him. The real purpose of the Countess's morning walks was to visit the training ground. Today, her husband was in great shape. Looking at him, every time was like the first. The guy was amazing. A man with a wide chest and muscles, and a sculpted back. This irritated her terribly, but Killian was really handsome. There was no point in denying it. She liked Killian more than Cliff. Instead of the typical angular body of the protagonist, Killian's sculpted muscles were more to her liking. In order not to be late, Erin had to move back little by little. She enjoyed the wonderful spectacle and was ready to leave. In her past life, the girl had never seen a truly handsome man, and because of these thoughts, she could not concentrate on work. Today on the agenda was the analysis of documents for weapons and armor of the family. Such information about the state of the weapons was very important. The fact that such documents were entrusted to Erin, did this mean that she was now trusted? The Countess was distracted by Lizzie, who came into the room. The girl asked what Erin was doing. She said that she was distributing information from the documents that her mother gave her into tables. Lizzie stared at her, not understanding what tables she was talking about and what they were. The Countess explained that the table was a summary of the information from this document, but only then did she realize that such a word did not exist in this world. From a historical point of view, a table like this has existed since ancient times, but the author may well have intentionally created a world of them because documents organized in this form look better visually. Smart Lizzie definitely should have realized the effectiveness of this method, Erin thought. The little goddess suggested that it would not be entirely convenient for other people. At that moment, the Countess thought that maybe she had really rushed with the innovation. The Duchess entered the room, and Erin decided to ask her opinion about keeping tables. The woman stared at the girl in bewilderment. The documents contain a lot of information, so the Countess decided to briefly organize it as follows, entering only the type of weapon, and in another column, only basic information about each item. The Duchess's eyes shone with joy, because Erin did everything in such a way that one could immediately understand what it was about. The woman asked her how she came up with this. The Duchess called this method skillful and decided from that moment on to try to organize all documents in a similar way. She asked Erin to try writing down all the documents she was currently working with so that others could watch her work and learn. The Countess happily agreed. Lizzie stood aside as if detached and watched as Mother and Erin discussed all the issues regarding documents. The woman immediately told her son about the method of document management that his wife had come up with. In Killian's opinion, it certainly looked effective, but in such a compressed form, it could easily be taken outside the estate. The mother asked her son to show at least a little sympathy for Erin, because she, like him, was in an arranged marriage. She was even worse off. She left her home and found herself alone, surrounded by people she did not know. The conversation between the son and his mother was interrupted by Baron Renan entering the room. The guy was confused and said that he could come back later. Renan arrived just in time, and the Duchess called him over to show him something. Meanwhile, Killian turned to Lizzie, asking how Erin was, and her mother seemed pleased with her. The girl confirmed her mother's words, calling the Countess quite smart and well-educated, unlike her, who did not receive any education in the Sinclair family. Even if Erin doesn't know something, she learns much faster than her. As Killian suspected, something was wrong here. The guy believed that it was not that his wife was smart. Most likely, she was specially trained in such things. Early in the morning, Killian came to Erin's room. The girl did not expect to see him. She realized that something had happened. Every time she saw this guy, she just wanted to play a joke on him. Despite the fact that in her situation, it would be useless to fall on her knees, begging him not to kill her. Erin decided to lighten the atmosphere with some small talk before Killian started telling her off. So she started talking about the weather outside. Pressing the girl against the wall and pressing too close to her, he asked about her mother's favorite atelier. It was so noble and elegant that it did not suit her vulgar style. The Countess did not understand what he was talking about. He explained that Erin, known for her habit of not wearing the same dress twice, had not bought one then. He considered her methods of protest rather primitive. Turning sharply to Killian, the Countess shouted that he knew absolutely nothing about her. If she didn't like that atelier, she would have found another. Does she look like a person who would be stopped by someone else's opinion? Erin could no longer be stopped. She screamed at Killian that he was just looking for a reason to hate her, trying in any way to convince himself that the reason was her, that it was all her fault. She understood everything from the moment she entered the hall at the wedding ceremony, blaming her for everything. He wants to find peace in this way. The Countess considered this act very cowardly, as if he were the only victim. Killian considered this an expression of her feelings after the girl got this position by blackmailing and threatening his family. Erin asked again. That is, he wants to say that she personally did it. The guy said that she really is not part of the Rigman, but different from them. Finally, Erin realized that to all the people here, she was just Rigman. The Countess repeated again, but in calm tones, that Killian knew nothing about her. Absolutely nothing. The only advice he could give her was that she should not do anything, since the guy knew that Erin was helping his mother. When her husband left, the girl sat down and cried. She no longer wanted to enjoy this luxury, but wanted to escape from here as quickly as possible. After leaving Erin's room, Killian thought about what he should do next. Maybe because of the scent of roses that reminded him of the room. His head was foggy, and he had no idea what he was talking about. From the very beginning, he could not see her outside the image of Count Rigman's daughter, but according to all the data that he had, there was not even a line about Count Rigman. Killian couldn't understand why he had been getting headaches so often lately. From behind, he heard a voice calling out to him. It was Lizzie, who wished him good morning. The girl came closer to him and asked why he had such an expression on his face. Having embraced Lizzie, Killian told her not to take it into her head. He just saw the unlucky girl again in the morning. Erin called Anna and suggested they go for a walk together. In a past life, when she was in a depressed mood, she would order a large iced Americano and walk around mindlessly. Anna happily agreed, saying that she would warn the Duchess and help Erin choose an outfit. Due to confinement inside 4 walls, the girl felt more and more depressed. When she went outside, she immediately felt her mood improve. Erin asked Anna where they could head. To be honest, she hadn't even gone to the main street alone. The maid came to the conclusion that in this case, their destination would depend on what the mistress liked to do. If she is looking for a cute tailor shop, jewelry store, dessert cafe, and similar establishments, then La Belle Marie Street will be a good choice. Darcis Street is home to cultural institutions such as art galleries and opera houses, as well as banks and several specialty shops. One of the capital's most popular patisseries, Peridot, also located on Darcis Street, whose strawberry cake and other sweets are notorious for being difficult to buy, even if you queue up before the patisserie opens. Concluding that Anna was very knowledgeable on this matter, she asked to find her jeweler, as it would be nice to have a good place to shop. The maid recommended 3 shops to choose from. Amabile, which has been operating since ancient times. The relatively recently opened Datrias, or Ruth P. Khan, which is located near the main street. Erin could not believe for a long time that Anna is a walking encyclopedia character, explaining all the intricacies of the world for the convenience of the writer. The Countess decided to go to Darcis Street to sort out some of the jewelry she had removed from her robes last time. Having handed over the jewelry, Erin received a fairly large amount of money. She was glad that the jeweler honestly assessed the products. The diamonds were the smallest, but the price for them was the highest. Next, the girl decided to head to the bank. She was a little worried because she didn't know what the local bank did. Setting up a bank account was a lot easier than she thought, and there was no such thing as an ID card in this society anyway, so the bank had no problem using a pseudonym. Having decided all her affairs, Erin offered to have something tasty to eat. especially since Anna probably knew a good restaurant. The Countess decided to find out about transport. They said that commoners do not have personal carriages, but then what do they drive when they go on a trip? The maid said that most often they rent a carriage or pay for a ticket to a freight carriage on a train. To get to the local town, you need to take the train from the station at the southern gate of the capital. In cheap taverns, they ask for 3,000 gold for a room for one night, and in more expensive places, it's already 7,000 gold, depending on the area and local facilities. But if you decide to sleep in a stable, you need to beware of fleas. Today, Aaron decided to dwell on this issue because it is unlikely that Anna, the maid of the Ludwig family, will not report the fact of her departure and will not convey all the information available on this matter. The maid asked if the lady needed anything else. The girl politely said that no. Thanks to her, she finished her work for the day much faster, and her company significantly improved the Countess's mood. Erin spent several days reading books about one thing or another, and at the moment she was reading books about farming to decide whether she could do it. Anna came into the library to report that the Duchess was looking for her mistress, and a jeweler had arrived. The girl froze in place. Is today really the same day as in the original story, the episode with jewelry, in which Erin was humiliated? A visit from the jeweler from the opalite store, who visits the Duke's family every season. The episode when Erin first got what she deserved in the Ludwig house. All the residents of the house, as always, paid attention only to Lizzie, and the girl was uncomfortable that she was left on the sidelines. Lizzie chose a piece of jewelry that she thought would suit Erin perfectly, but the Countess could not silently tolerate such a plain necklace being recommended to her. Erin mockingly asked how she was so sure that the jewelry would suit her, insulting Lizzie that her eyesight was poor or her eyes were blurred since she focused on this necklace. The little goddess froze in place. She began to make excuses, but the Countess interrupted her. She liked the rest of the jewelry, for example, a special exhibit, but except for the last jewelry, after that, Cliff bought all the jewelry for his sister with a blank signed check. So Lisey's offer, the only necklace left for Erin, all this made up a pleasant episode for the readers. Usually Erin sat between them and helped with advice, but today the day was much stranger than usual. The girl did not want to go because she was embarrassed to see Killian. The girl understood why in the original story her heroine did exactly what she did. Finally, the moment came. Lizzie shouted that she had found a necklace that would best suit Erin. Showing it, the Countess almost had stars falling out of her eyes from the beauty of the jewelry. The necklace was really very beautiful. The girl asked about the stone, whether it was a ruby. The jeweler confirmed that it was a high-quality ruby. The design of the gold chain and the setting of the stone were also high-quality work of jewelers. The Duchess invited Erin to try on this necklace. Before the Countess had time to take the jewelry, Killian took it and asked his wife to turn her back to him. Erin was very surprised. She did not understand why the guy had such an expression on his face, much less why he behaved this way. Finally, she understood what was wrong, because the Duchess was here, and he could not make Mother worry. Erin flirtatiously asked Killian how he liked the decoration, and the guy briefly replied that it was quite good. The guy asked the jeweler for the bill for the necklace. Lizzie said that this was the first gift he gave to his wife, and what a wonderful husband he was. Cliff said he would pay for all the other decorations. The Duchess intervened, saying that if her son bought all the jewelry for Lizzie, Erin would have nothing left. The Countess reassured Mother that one piece of jewelry was enough for her, thinking in her head about how much she could get for it. Then she caught herself thinking that even if she were in the most desperate situation, she would not be able to sell this necklace. After each mail arrived, Erin sat down and burned invitations to parties in the fireplace. Did her heroine really go to parties so often and spread rumors about Lizzie there? On the remaining 2 letters, she noticed a similar coat of arms. It was the coat of arms of her Rigman family. The girl began to read the letter very carefully. The father wrote that he had given enough time to get used to the Ludwigs, But how long to wait? Shouldn't Erin do her part of the job secretly? Count Rigman heard rumors that the daughter helps the Duchess with documents and has access to the papers of the ducal family. If among the documents there are papers about weapons and armor, then they need to be stolen. And if this is difficult, then the contents can be noted down and sent. Erin thought, if her father knows that she is helping with the documents, then there is probably a Rigman spy in the Duke's house. Taking up the pen, she began to write the answer that the Duchy of Ludwig, which she visited and saw personally unshakably, is beyond imagination. If someone is going to destroy this stability, then the unfortunate person should be prepared to lose his family. In addition, to be honest, from the very beginning of being in the duchy, she has not committed a single bad offense. The title of nobility is in all aspects the will and power of His Majesty the Emperor. So why do you hate the unique family of Ludwig? Erin decided to complete her answer with this question, but then continued anyway. Now that His Majesty the Emperor is in good health with Her Highness the Princess at the moment, there is no reason for Archduke Langston to occupy the throne. The Countess believed that the most desirable option would be to renounce betrayal and develop the strengths of the Rigman family under the auspices of the Ludwig family. Finally, the girl expressed everything she wanted. This is probably how the situation looks from the frying pan into the fire. Count Rigman may not go that far in giving up his ambitions, but that certainly doesn't apply to his married daughter. However, according to Erin, the carefully executed job soon took a turn in an unexpected direction. In the Duke's office, he asked Erin again if she had handed over the duchy's documents to a third party. The girl insisted that she was in no way guilty. The Duke asked to swear on part of his father. Without hesitation, the Countess swore on her father's honor and even on her life and honor. Duke Ludwig concluded that Erin had just trampled her honor and the honor of her house into the mud. The girl was angry. She did not understand what was going on. The gentleman asked Renan to provide Erin with documents. After reading, the girl asked if these were not the documents that she had recently been given to sort out. Everything was correct, the Duke confirmed. These documents had no value. Renan specially prepared them for her. Erin's father sold items from this list, which confirms that he used false information. The Countess sat rooted to the spot. She still did not understand what the problem was. She believes that there must be another reason why she was entrusted with false documents. In any case, Erin did only what she was told to do and did not pass this information on to anyone. The Duke found it amazing that even in such a situation, the girl pretended to be innocent, because information that only she had access to got to her father. Erin clarified that Renan had access to the information, as well as the servants occupying the same office, and the Duchess and Lady Lizzie also read them. The gentleman asked, so she blames the people of the Ludwig family for this? Come to think of it, that's how it was in the original. After Erin's wedding, she was never addressed as Erin Ludwig. The girl was beside herself with anger. She repeated that the Duchess and Lady Lizzie knew that she was sorting out these documents. The Countess guessed that she would be the first to fall under suspicion if this happened. Erin said that if they trusted her, they would not have entrusted her with fake documents, but simply would not have allowed her to touch them. She concluded that the Duke's family wanted to put pressure on Count Rigman, but for this, they had to confirm her involvement in the data leak. The Countess could not understand how this document fell into the hands of the Count when she declared that she would not give him anything. She was a little sad that Renan, with whom she thought she had a good relationship, betrayed her, but honestly, Erin didn't think he did it, and there was no way Lizzie would leak the documents. Most likely this was done by the spy Rigman in the mansion. In the original novel, handing over documents was naturally Erin's job. As soon as Erin from the novel began handling documents, the information was immediately transferred to Count Rigman. The Ludwig family, who fed them false information, fooled the Count around their finger without any losses. Erin, in the original, was exposed and punished for violating her probation and forever remained an outcast from society. This situation still happened despite the actions of the Countess after the episode with the jeweler, and until today, as if, no matter what she does, the fate of the original Erin awaits her. The girl realized that she would fall further and further to the bottom until she died at the hands of Killian. Erin repeated what she said earlier, that she swears on her life and honor, and if they don't believe her, then let them cut her throat right away. Cliff offered to conduct further investigation, but the suspect would be prohibited from going outside. The Duke agreed, but Erin would be on probation, and if she was truly not guilty, then the Countess had better pray that the truth would come out. Renan was supposed to accompany the girl, but Killian grabbed her and began to drag her sharply, saying that he would do everything himself. He began to shout at his wife that she was completely crazy, that Duke Axel Ludwig had a nickname on the battlefield, chopping off heads. Killian was so indignant because Erin had offered to slit her own throat in front of a man who had no qualms about sending his own army, enemy troops, and prisoners to slaughter if necessary. The Countess asked her husband again. He was annoyed precisely because she said to cut her throat. Erin confidently stated that since they didn't trust her, then she wasn't going to trust her either. Anyway, for them, she was to some extent a criminal. After all, it was the Ludwigs who gave her forged documents and also told her what actions the Count had taken based on these papers, and they were also involved in the investigation and punishment. The Countess sits within 4 walls and silently accepts any verdict. Killian swore on his honor that he would conduct a fair and independent investigation. He also promised not to let the odds go against Erin and to keep her in the loop as the investigation progressed. The Countess agreed, but asked if it were a situation where she and Lizzie were on the list of suspects at the same time, whether he was sure that he would be impartial. The Ludwig family's carriage drove up to the luxurious palace. Cliff gave Lizzie his hand and helped her down. A short-haired girl came out to meet the little angel. She was obviously glad to see Lizzie. Princess Catherine of Iberia, the only blood relative of the current emperor, who is his younger sister, 4 years younger, is the most selfish and spoiled princess in history. A wild beast of the imperial palace, which releases its claws before opening its mouth. It was difficult to believe that this savage belonged to the clan of the imperial family. The only aristocrat in the empire with a short haircut, this walking horror of the entire palace, wears breeches even to official celebrations, arguing that dresses irritate her. Even the emperor came to terms with such a statement. Lizzie greeted Her Highness. The princess was indignant. "What about Your Highness? Why are they not calling her by her name?" Approaching very close to the little goddess, Catherine said that on her last visit, Lizzie said that she would arrive in a month, so she went out to meet her in the hope that she had not lost interest in her. Only in front of Lizzie could one see her as friendly, even though the girl had won the heart of her former lover. The princess noticed that Killian had not arrived. She asked what happened. Lizzie recalled that the guy got married, and he couldn't leave his wife to meet Catherine. Cliff agreed with the little goddess, but in his opinion, this event could hardly be called a marriage. Rather, it was a simple political game with the Rigman family. The princess asked if the purpose of the visit was that they came to discuss such vile names as Langston and Rigman. Cliff confirmed this, but he believed that this matter could go smoothly due to the fact that Erin turned out to be stupider than he thought. The guests were informed that His Majesty the Emperor was ready to receive them. Catherine took Lizzie by the arm, saying that they were going to go for a walk. She sent Cliff alone to negotiate with her brother before leaving for the palace. Noticing that his brother was clearly not in a good mood, Cliff invited Killian to go to the imperial palace with him. This proposal greatly angered the guy, since the investigation was not yet completed, and his father had already sent a report to the palace. Cliff was about to say that the investigation was still in progress, but remained silent. In his memory, this was the first time Killian had reacted to his father's actions in such a way. Erin woke up in a cold sweat. She had another nightmare. She finally realized that as long as she was alive, she could endure anything. After the Countess changed her mind, life became calmer. The suspended sentence is actually a punishment. But for her, as a homebody, it was a vacation to enjoy time alone. At least until Killian came to lunch. Aaron asked what business brought him to her without warning, and at lunch hour at that. The guy was silent, which began to anger the Countess. She thought that he was behaving like an ill-mannered puppy. Did he really think that if he was handsome, then everything was allowed to him? If so, Aaron decided to also focus on lunch. The food was too appetizing to refuse it because of the visit of uninvited guests. Finally, Killian decided to speak, saying that at the moment they were carefully investigating all the loopholes through which one could gain access to the documents, and Lisi also became a person of interest in the investigation. After dinner, Erin went to her room and immediately felt emptiness in her soul. She didn't know what to do. There were no novels like A Past Life here. She used to do origami as a hobby, but that wasn't the case in the world of romantic fantasy. Erin asked Anna what the ladies are doing these days. If we talk about hobbies, they usually engage in embroidery and drawing, and active ladies enjoy horse riding. None of the proposed options suited the Countess, so she hoped that there was something else besides this. It was in fashion to sew clothes from fabrics and dress up wooden dolls. Parents did not skimp on this hobby, as it was useful for developing sewing skills. This activity interested Erin. She asked Anna where she could get such dolls. She said that sometimes they are asked to make parents, but now there are enough shops where artisans make dolls and sell them. 50,000 gold is enough to buy a couple of high-quality dolls. Erin gave Anna 200,000 gold to buy good fabric and a sewing kit for doll clothes, and kept the remaining money for herself as a bonus. The maid said that since her job was to serve her mistress, she had no need for a bonus. The Countess did not understand this. Did Anna really not want to take gifts from her? The maid clearly did not want to offend her mistress. Erin understood this from the frightened expression on Anna's face. She apologized that she did not want to scare her so much. The Countess knew from the very beginning that it was Anna who was assigned to look after her. Despite Erin's situation, like Renan, the maid is one of the few in the mansion who treats her well, even if such treatment does not bring any benefits. The lady asked that this amount was clearly not enough to bribe Anna's pride, but she would be glad if the girl considered this gesture as a sign of her gratitude. Taking the money, the maid thanked Erin. The Countess began her new task, but she was not very good at it. Once again, she unraveled a seam that she could not do properly. As always, Anna got ready without a hitch. Erin was going to look for her, but she came on her own and just in time. The maid brought a whole box with various patterns and threads. The dolls were purchased as a ready-made set of a man and a woman. Anna ordered patterns from a tailor, first asked for several options, but if Erin wants a certain design, then it can be ordered without any problems. The Countess came to the conclusion that this is a hobby. She doesn't have to do everything perfectly. They still do it in order to kill time and money for entertainment and relaxation. If you think about it, in a past life, the girl didn't even think that she would enjoy a vacation without thoughts in her head, since she was always haunted by thoughts about the time spent and the justification of monetary expenses. Maybe that's why it seemed to her that she was living her life only now, when she had captured someone else's body in a completely new world. Erin finished the suit and dress for her dolls. While she had time, she decided that she could try some more sewing. Killian burst into the Countess's room. The guy was furious and shouted that they had found a document written in her handwriting. At the Sinclair mansion, at breakfast, Layla asked her brother what Erin had done that she was banned from leaving immediately after the wedding. Demian said that the Countess stole the documents. She was probably in a hurry, since Count Regman plans to attack the duchy within a year. From the very beginning, Erin was a bargaining chip. Despite the fact that she could be put on probation in the duchy, she tried to get useful information as quickly as possible. Layla was shocked that the Count received the Duke's secret documents, but her brother mockingly said that the documents were fake. No one trusted her with the original. In this situation, the Count did not receive information, but only fell into a well-prepared trap. Damien was bothered by the fact that Killian cared for Aaron in a manner that was unusual for him. Layla proposed a plan to her brother that they should tell the Duke that Aaron was a bargaining chip. This would be the perfect opportunity to fleece him. Damien did not agree with his sister. He believed that the Countess could handle it herself, and there was no need to worry about it. But on the other hand, Lizzie raised questions. Because of Killian's wedding, the likelihood of Lizzie and Cliff's marriage increased. These words made Layla furious. She could not allow this scoundrel to take this place. That's why Lizzie was considered a problem, because if the situation in which she tightly holds Cliff in her hands worsens, then Layla's marriage contract with him will be annulled. The girl got nervous. She began to think through different options in her head, eventually suggesting that Damien use Aaron Rigman. The plan was that if Lizzie was also fascinated by Killian, then Aaron would hate her, and if they pushed the Countess, then she would take care of the girl herself. Thus, it was possible to catch two birds with one stone. Killian shouted that Aaron would soon be summoned to the Duke because of a document written in her handwriting. The guy was interested in what she would say in this case, but the girl was not taken aback, saying that she would tell that they were diligently trying to frame her. The guy didn't understand whether she was mocking him now, or whether she really despised the Duke so much. In the original novel, Aaron actually did this, but the Duke refused to claim in this case the girl had a lot of things to do, so she couldn't just disappear. Killian was confused. He didn't understand what was going on in his wife's head. Their conversation was interrupted by Renan. The Baron came to tell Aaron that the Duke was waiting for her. With a smile on her face, the girl headed to the Master's office, telling Killian not to worry so much, but to be glad that all the evidence was found. The Duke provided the Countess with a list of ordered goods that the arms dealer had received from Count Rigman. The list was written in her hand. Aaron said out loud that they copied her handwriting. Duke Ludwig decided that this was her father's mistake, so he was not going to punish the girl. Aaron was outraged by this. She repeated to the Master that it was not a matter of punishment, but of her honor. She provided 2 documents with tables for comparison, showing that she did not draw them so clumsily. It was more like the scribbles of a person who has no idea what tables are. The Duke assumed that Aaron had drawn it this way on purpose. The Countess denied this, saying that there was no need for it. If she had expected to be discovered, she would not have written in her own handwriting in the first place. Aaron tried to convince everyone that if you looked closely, the handwriting was slightly different. She asked permission to bring her diary for comparison. The girl proved that the handwritings were slightly different. A clear difference was visible when writing one of the letters. Summing up, Aaron said that his lordship needed to catch the mole. The Duke thought about it. This was more like the truth. Lizzie entered the Duke's office. The 3 could not understand what she was doing here. The gentleman said that it was he who called her. The Duke began the conversation by saying that it had been 4 years since Lizzie began helping the Duchess with work. Last time, she said that Aaron taught them to organize information using tables. Lizzie confirmed everything, adding that the Duchess was glad to learn about the existence of such a method. The Duke was interested in whether anyone else knew about this method. The girl said that it was worth asking the mistress if she taught assistants this method. The young masters Cliff and Killian had a general idea, except for them, probably no one else. The Duke concluded that, at best, only Aaron and his family could use this method. Lizzie asked why she was being asked such questions. The gentleman made it clear that this did not concern her. He heard everything he wanted, and now it was time for her to leave. After Lizzie's words, the Duke became more confident that it was Aaron who handed over the documents to the Count. Although the girl showed all the evidence, tables different from hers, and mismatched handwriting, they still trusted Lizzie's words more. The Countess did not remember exactly how the little goddess proved her guilt in the original novel. but she believed that the kind and fair Lizzie would provide stronger evidence. Erin thought about it. She didn't falsify the documents, so Lizzie couldn't have written evidence. The Countess remembered that she had left her diary. When she came to her senses, it was already in the hands of Killian, who was reading it enthusiastically. She attacked him. She couldn't believe that he was reading someone else's diary. Taking the notebook from him, she asked if he really didn't have the slightest desire to be polite to her. The Duke interrupted her monologue, saying that they did not have strong evidence of her guilt, so he would turn a blind eye to this case and also cancel the previously issued probation. Erin headed to her room. Killian ran after her, shouting that he could not believe her words, but the girl knew that it was, and would be. Remembering everything the Rigman did, it was natural to blame the Countess for everything. The girl had already started screaming, repeating that if she said several times that she had nothing to do with this, then is it really so difficult to remember? Killian asked what about helping her father's plot before all this? At the same moment, numerous images flashed through Erin's head. Not only was she seducing men to extract information, but she was also ruining the party of a family that was favorable to the Ludwigs. More than once, the Countess ruined a wedding for the children of this family. She wondered why these memories were arising right now. After leading Erin to her room, Killian met Lizzie in the corridor. The girl was interested in what kind of commotion was happening in the palace. The guy said that his wife was suspected of stealing documents. The little goddess could not believe it, and began to justify Erin that she did not do it. Killian said that he didn't want to believe it either, but they had ambiguous evidence. The Countess decided that there was no point in eavesdropping, and so the guy's opinion about her was clear. Lizzie began to worry that her words might harm Erin, and she was going to provide a full explanation to his lordship. Killian said that there was no need to do this, since his father decided to forget about this matter, and there was no need for it now. The guy recalled entries from Erin's diary, where she wrote about him, how she hid on the path near the training ground and spied on him. His face was shining, and his beautiful body gave her no peace. But that was not all. She saw Killian wave his hand at Lizzie when she came in and smile. He never smiled at her. The young master was completely confused. He no longer understood what the point was in mocking Erin. Walking quickly into the library, Killian called Cliff to practice on the parade ground now. The guy was surprised, looking at his brother. He asked why he was so gloomy. Was his head still there? But Killian was not going to answer his questions and demanded to go to the parade ground. The next morning, Erin came to the Duchess's room. The woman received her good-naturedly, saying that she was aware of the difficulties that had befallen her yesterday. The girl came to say that she really did not steal the documents, knowing that the Duchess would not believe her, and her doubts could grow more and more. The mistress interrupted Erin, holding her hands. She said that she believed her. The Duchess knew that the Countess was trying her best to help her. She could see how she was trying to get used to her new surroundings. The woman understood her like no one else. It turned out that at one time she, too, had gone through this. Although she did not know who played this cruel joke, she was sure that it was not Erin who did it. The Countess began to cry. Her mother began to console her. The girl was about to make some kind of confession when her eyes grew dim and she began to fall. The servants came running to the parade ground to tell Cliff and Killian that Erin had fainted. Killian was confused, asking for details. The guy said that the Countess talked with his mother and then suddenly fainted. Quickly throwing on his shirt, he quickly rushed to the palace. The arriving doctor said that most likely the lady was changing clothes and fell. She asked whether Lady Erin had been in stressful situations. Killian froze. He did not take his eyes off the Countess, thinking that yesterday she had behaved so confidently in front of her father during the interrogation, and today she was lying unconscious with a tear-stained face. The arrogant Erin Rigman, who never misses a chance to be sarcastic, brought herself to the point of fainting with tears. Killian asked his mother what they were talking about. The woman said that they were unlikely to believe her, but the girl claimed that she was not involved in the story with the documents. The guy said that Aaron always maintained this, but the mother, putting her hand on her son's shoulder, said that she believed her. That is why the girl started crying. No one believed her before. This was especially painful for her. Killian remembered her words, how he told her that he couldn't believe her words, and Aaron shouted that it was and will be. Seeing that her son was clutching his head, the woman began to call the doctor for help, but the guy reassured her that everything was fine. He just had a headache. He got up to go rest when he ran into Lizzie. She came as soon as she heard that Aaron had fainted. The little goddess asked Killian why he was so pale. Lizzie began to reach out her hand to touch the guy's face when he intercepted her and said that he was fine. He headed to his room to lie down. The little goddess clearly did not expect such a reaction from him. The girl woke up. Everything around was black. It seemed to her that she had died again. In front of her, she saw a text that said that Aaron Rigman could not talk about her secrets until she fulfilled the special condition of the 3rd stage. The girl did not understand what we were talking about. She woke up abruptly in her room, never knowing what condition was being discussed. Anna immediately rushed to her with questions about her well-being. The maid said that the Countess slept for 2 days. This information even made Aaron cough and asked Anna to bring her water. She wanted to find out if Killian had come, but decided that it was better not to. When the girl first woke up in Aaron's body, she thought that she had become the heroine of a romantic fantasy while being a villain. If she had behaved politely and gently, she would not only have avoided a mortal fate, but also would have settled the problems and become a good friend to the main character. As soon as this empty hope collapsed, she decided to live a quiet life. She thought she would be content as the daughter-in-law of a rich family, living quietly, abandoning her husband. Regardless of Aaron's will, the original episodes continued steadily. No matter how she changed the course of events, everything turned out the same as in the original. As if there is an unknown force that arranges the course of events in a certain way. From the very beginning, the girl was simply mistaken. She could not change the course of history. Aaron Rigman is a negative heroine of a romantic fantasy. Her role is insignificant. Personal secrets are not revealed in the novel. A minor character who is destined for a brutal death at the hands of her own husband, who cuts her throat. Aaron sat and wondered what the next episode would be like. The Countess, feeling threatened by the leaked documents, sneaked into Killian's bedroom that night. She wanted to kiss him while he was sleeping, in an attempt to seduce him. Aaron walked into Killian's room. His peacefully sleeping figure was as beautiful as an angel. He was the man she fell in love with. The girl leaned over him to kiss him. In any case, she believed that she had nothing to lose. She knew that now he would wake up with eyes full of contempt. When he woke up, he grabbed Aaron's hand and said that she was so horny that she couldn't even play the role. Throwing her onto the bed, he gave her a chance to try to seduce him, believing that she might have a good body. Aaron stopped him and asked if he was sure he wanted to do this to her. Killian thought about it, because she is not Lizzie. Compared to what he feels for Lizzie, this girl means nothing to him. Even if this was a marriage of convenience, the Countess did not expect anything from him as from her husband. Pulling Aaron closer to him, Killian told her that she shouldn't ask such questions after the confidence with which she walked in here. Without letting her say a word, he kissed her. Putting Aaron's hand on his body, Killian gave her the chance to touch what she had been dreaming about. Running his fingers over his body, he asked if she was satisfied. Killian moved his lips to her neck, thinking that even Aaron Rigman could blush. He began to slowly move his hand up her leg, rising higher. All she could say was scream his name. Waking up in Killian's bed in the morning, Aaron thought that they had definitely slept together. The guy ordered the maid that as soon as she finished heating the water, she could leave. Today, he wanted to be alone. Returning to his wife, he asked how she was feeling. He took her in his arms. Aaron tried to resist, claiming that she could walk. Killian put her in the bathtub and told her that if the water was too hot, then she should not be shy and talk. It reminded him of how she lay in the bathtub on her wedding night. The gentleman realized that Aaron probably liked to bask in the water. The girl confirmed this. She felt awkward, not understanding what came over Killian, because even if last night happened only because of his anger towards her, she thought that he would regret what happened in the morning. The innocence of his first kiss, which should have belonged to Lizzie, was taken away by the fleeting temptation of the previous night. The girl remembered that in the original, the attempt to seduce Killian did not work. She wondered if he did it out of pity or because Lizzie was clearly leaning in Cliff's favor. The guy apologized for making Aaron move so much. Although she had only recently recovered, he said that she should rest for a few days. Aaron would never have thought that she would hear his voice full of tenderness. Considering how coldly he treated her since the wedding, she still did not know what changed his attitude towards her. In front of the Countess was Killian, who hugged and called her name. The girl decided to gather her thoughts and think about everything, especially since after that very night, she had a dream that she had fulfilled a special condition. Once a special condition is met, it means the author's rights have decreased. She had many questions, but Aaron knew that no one would answer them. Suddenly, she heard some kind of ringing. This system definitely knew that the girl was in an affair. The special condition of the first stage was that she follow the example of the original Aaron. She was trapped, trying not to do the bad things the original Aaron did, but the system demanded otherwise. There were several strange things in the dream. Since Aaron fulfilled a special stage condition, it was mentioned that the author's rights were reduced. Everything was too vague. There was not enough information to fully understand. The most important thing Aaron learned that night is that it is possible to change the plot of the original novel. She realized that it was not time to give up yet. She needed to see what choice Killian would make in the next episode. Aaron walked into the Duchess's office. The woman rushed to her, asking if she was feeling well. The Countess reassured Mother that everything was fine with her. She had long since recovered. Ludwig's husband had recently visited the Imperial Palace, most likely on a trip to settle matters regarding the growing threat from Archduke Lanston and Count Rigman. Aaron knew better than to ask about this matter. The Duchess said that the Duke was also worried about his daughter-in-law. He regretted that he put a lot of pressure on her during their conversation. His manner of speech was somewhat harsh, since he spent a lot of time on the battlefield. Mother asked what Aaron wanted to do in the future. If that was what she wanted, she didn't have to help her with the paperwork anymore. If she were guilty of what happened, they would whisper about her from all sides and point fingers at her, like a daughter-in-law who has lost the trust of the entire family and now cannot even touch a piece of paper of the duchy. Aaron expressed a desire to continue to help with the affairs of the duchy, if the Duchess does not object. But the person who set her up last time may do this again. So the Countess asked to work under the leadership of someone whom the mother trusts. In fact, the Duchess had already thought about this, and it turned out that Renan Filch needed assistance. The girl froze in place. Renan was the person who works with papers and is not a member of the Ludwig family. It was he who prepared those very false documents. Like Anna, he was one of the few who treated the Countess with an open mind, unless, of course, he was disappointed in her. Entering the Baron's office, Aaron found his most emotionless face. The Countess said that from today she will help him. Her first task was to sort the box of receipts by year. Taking one of the receipts, Aaron asked what happened to them. This was the merit of the previous assistant. He said that he was offended by Renan, then threw the receipts on the floor and ran away. Renan Filch warned the lady not to think that he would be lenient towards her. She would still regret that she chose to work with him. It was quite quiet and calm in the office. From time to time, the silence was interrupted by the creak of a pen, the rustling of sheets of paper when they were turned over. The weak midday rays of the sun made their way through the window. Everything in this place exuded calm. Aaron did not have time to notice how the working day ended. Renan came to say that they would wrap up for today. the girl hurried to note to what place she managed to sort the papers. She thanked the Baron for giving her the opportunity. Renan praised her, saying that she had done a great job. The girl admitted that she did not want leniency from him. In her previous life, her boss, who emphasized team friendliness and only interacted with a certain group of people, was terrible. Erin told Renan that she only wanted two things from him: honesty and competence, and it seemed to her that the guy was famous for these two qualities. At dinner, Cliff called the Baron to ask him a few questions. Everyone in the palace was already aware that from today he was watching Erin. Cliff was interested in what he thought about her. Several thoughts flashed through Killian's head. Why, despite all this, Erin wanted to help her father again, and also asked for this job herself. And why was her brother interested in her at all? Renan said that he was informed that Ms. Erin wanted to help with the documents, so they assigned it to him so that he could supervise her work. Cliff was interested in other information, whether the Baron had noticed anything suspicious, but the guy could not answer his question, since he spent only a quarter of the day with Erin. His office did not meet the standards of such an aristocratic lady. Despite this, the lady worked diligently, without expressing dissatisfaction with the situation. He could tell that the lady was meticulous in her work. According to Renan, Erin had excellent concentration, understanding, and judgment, in addition to being persevering. This information was useless to Cliff, so he warned his father's assistant that he would call him again soon. Lizzie was extremely surprised, since it was the first time she had heard Renan give such compliments to someone. She thought she was magnificent because she had won the Baron's heart within 24 hours. Cliff thought that Lizzie wanted to say that her father's assistant fell in love with Erin. He was a bachelor, so anything could happen. He even thought that such an outcome would not be bad for them. Paying attention to his brother, or rather to his pale appearance, the gentleman asked him if he was really that worried. Killian laughed it off, saying that this was impossible. The guy walked back and forth in his room. I couldn't find a place for myself. His brother's words about Erin and Renan were in his head. Erin's beauty was different from Lizzie's charm. One could say that she was a sensual girl, and if they were left alone for several hours in a cramped office, then something happened. Killian approached Erin's room, knocking on the door. He did not hear an answer and opened it. The guy smelled the scent of roses. There was no one in the room, as it seemed to him. On the counter, he saw two figures very similar to him and Erin. The Countess appeared out of nowhere. She immediately threw off these figures, starting to make excuses that it was just a hobby, and she was somewhat embarrassed to show it to strangers. Then, she switched to Killian and began blaming him for entering the room without knocking. They sat opposite each other and were silent. No one knew how to start a dialogue. Killian was the first to break the silence, asking how she was doing, but he himself answered that she was probably fine. The girl became embarrassed, saying that it was all thanks to her mother. She was the one who sent her to work under the leadership of Renan. Killian revealed that the Filch family are vassals of their house. Viscount Theo Filch assisted the Duke in his affairs from the very beginning, but from the moment the Duke entrusted him with the estate, his duties in the capital were taken over by Baron Renan Filch, his son. It turned out that the guys grew up together, but while Killian and Cliff were interested in sword fights, Renan preferred to disappear alone with a book. Erin still couldn't understand why her husband decided to come and talk about it. He could tell from her face that she was wondering about his visit. Killian said that very soon he would go to the territory of Raisin to check the affairs of the estate. These lands were located far north of the capital, several days' journey by carriage. The estate and the surrounding territory were to go to Killian, as the second son who did not inherit the title of Duke. Because of the trip, the guy would be away for a long time, so he came to Erin to offer to go with him. She froze in surprise and asked him if he wanted her to go with him. Erin laughed, telling Killian that he probably invited her along for the sake of decency, wishing him a good trip. Leaving her room, he began to reproach himself for his stupid act. His thoughts were interrupted by the news that the Duke was waiting for him in the courtyard. Aaron exhaled. She was finally done with her work for the day. The Countess felt Renan's gaze on her. She asked him why he was looking like that. Nervously adjusting his glasses, he said that it was nothing, and immediately changed the topic by saying that the Duchess had invited Aaron to her place. When the Countess left the office, Renan went to her desk, opening the documents. He was surprised how she had already managed to organize the papers so carefully. Mother announced that Countess Eraminia's market would be held next month, and on this occasion there would be a meeting at their house for embroidery. The Duchess invited Aaron and Lizzie to join them. Charity bases are held to collect monetary donations, and upper-class ladies usually offer their embroidery. Such an event is an excellent opportunity to demonstrate honed skills and wonderful taste. The meeting before the organization of the bazaar is attended by upper-class ladies of all generations and ages. Considering the high position of the House of Ludwig among all the imperial families, it is Duchess Jocelyn who arranges the meeting before the charity bazaar is held. Lizzie began to make excuses that her embroidery skills were not so good. She was not sure that her embroidery would compare with the embroidery of others. The Duchess began to reassure her that there was no reason to worry about such trifles. Aaron understood that embroidery and she were incompatible things. Anna tried to teach her, but nothing came of it, so she decided to come up with an excuse. Without letting Aaron say a word, Lizzie said that she would not be nervous if she went there with the Countess, an idea that the Duchess immediately supported. The lady had no choice, so she agreed. Lizzie showed her a muslin shawl that she had recently finished. Aaron didn't understand why the girl was so nervous if she could create such beauty. The ladies admired the beauty of Lizzie's shawl and how wonderfully she handled the loom. The little goddess turned her attention to Aaron, asking what she was going to do. The Countess was going to decorate the handkerchief. It was the only thing she could do with her sewing skills. Aaron decided to sew a handkerchief for Killian. The Duchess approached her after choosing the colors. Her mother was delighted with this idea. Stepping aside, the mother began to smile. It seemed that her daughter-in-law was in the clouds. Finally, Killian and his father arrived at their destination. Their domain was somewhat far from the capital. The Duke believed that it was rare to find such lands with potential for development, especially since 10 days was not so much, and if on horseback, then less than a week. The territory looked much better than the guy had imagined. When the lands became his, they would leave the Duke's domain, so he was worried about their well-being. The castle was in good condition, thanks to the many years of efforts of the caretaker and servants. The interior decoration was somewhat harsh and lacked elements of luxury, so upon returning to the capital, Killian was going to find a good furniture maker. He thought about Erin. She is from the Rigman family, who are drowning in wealth and chic. The guy doubted that the strict decoration would be to her taste. Heavy snow has been a big problem in this area. However, no avalanches have yet been recorded. Killian was pleased with the territory. Since there were many young people in the territory, it was worth aiming at expanding into other areas besides agriculture. The guy proposed to build a direct route through the Filiac Mountains so that the entire territory would become one of the key points for traders traveling throughout the empire. The father asked Killian if he was really happy with just that. The son did not understand his father's question, asking what else he needed to ask for, more lands or a higher title. Killian began to get angry. Did his father really think that he would ask him to take the title of heir away from his brother and give it to him? He asked the Duke why such a question was asked now. Killian always followed his father's wishes, even going into an arranged marriage, leaving behind his freedom. In the end, he exhaled and told his father that he was happy with everything. The girls went out into the city. Lizzie showed Aaron a shop where they could offer goods for sale. The scale of the bazaar amazed them. One could see a huge variety of different goods. Suddenly, Lizzie noticed that her and Aaron's products were laid out on the counter. It looks like someone managed to buy embroidery of a little goddess. There was a bow on the product. The girl was very happy. She asked Aaron her opinion about today's competition. The Countess knew that the main male character was only looking for an opportunity to buy up all of Lizzie's products. Aaron came up with an idea to help Cliff buy all the girls' masterpieces. She suggested that she look at the products from a different perspective. The girls heard some ladies discussing modern mores of society. Without hesitation, they talked about Lizzie, about how this illegitimate daughter was hanging around the bazaar. Aaron realized that gossip existed in the same way here as in her previous life. There are such individuals who, without a twinge of conscience, criticize out loud, hoping that they will not be heard. Lizzie grabbed Aaron's hand tightly. The girl was very depressed. The Countess came to the girl's defense, loudly saying that she could not get used to the behavior of society these days. Some hillbilly without any sense of tact is going to start a verbal altercation at the market, Aaron continued. Turning towards the gossips, the girl added that she couldn't remember her face. It was immediately obvious that she had come from a deep village. One of the girls came to her mother's defense, saying that if Aaron Rigman did not recognize Bryn at one glance, then this shows the paucity of her knowledge of secular society. The Countess stopped this by reminding her that her surname changed after the wedding, and the way they decided to gossip behind the backs of others shows that simple rules of etiquette need to be tightened up. This infuriated Countess Bryn. She had heard rumors that the Duke had an unpleasant daughter-in-law, but she did not think that it would be to such an extent. Aaron suggested waiting for Mr. Cliff and then seeing what was left of the Bryn family. The girls began to leave, saying that they were very sorry for young Mr. Killian. Lizzie apologized to Aaron. It turned out that this was a friend of Countess Sinclair, and because of her, they said nasty things about Aaron. The Countess reassured the girl. She had nothing to be ashamed of. While everyone praised Lizzie for her talent for embroidery, Aaron sat on the bench and didn't know what to do with herself. The Countess heard the little goddess shout the name of her husband, who had just arrived. Aaron was thinking about what to do correctly, say hello or pretend that she didn't notice him. Approaching Killian, she almost let slip that she missed him, but stopped in time and asked how he got there. The guy didn't take his eyes off her. Aaron asked why he was looking like that. Killian finally responded that the trip had been great, asking how things had been going for her while he was away. The Countess said that all this time she was trying to embroider something adequate with her zero skills in this matter. Out of boredom, she drank too much iced tea, so she excused herself and went to powder her nose. Entering her room, Aaron heard outside steps. The girl was abruptly grabbed by the hand. She did not know this person and did not understand who it could be. The uninvited guest was indignant. How could Aaron ask who he was? Had she really forgotten the voice of her brother? The girl realized that in front of her was Shane Rigman. Shane thought his sister was crazy when she wrote in her letter telling them to stop attacking this family, but then sent documents that turned out to be fake. The brother needed to know that when they slipped Aaron fake documents, she sent these letters on purpose because she was being followed or something else. The Countess was not taken aback, explaining to her brother that some kind of misunderstanding had occurred. The letter was not written to divert attention. As for the documents, she said that she did not send them, but she needed to find out who sent them. Killian sat and waited for his wife. She was very late, although she said that she would return soon. Without waiting, the guy decided to return back to the palace. When he returned, he found Aaron with his brother, but since he was standing too far away, he could not hear what they were talking about. Shane disappeared. Killian approached the Countess, who asked why she had been gone for so long, but as expected, the girl did not tell the truth. Aaron asked if her husband was specifically looking for her. Her heart was glad to receive such attention, that there was a person who cared about her. Killian and Aaron heard the announcement that the market was over and that all the things had been bought. The lady was glad that if they bought everything, then someone bought her handkerchief. But the question was, who did it? She was afraid that her embroidery would remain until the end of the market, but it's good that this did not happen. It turned out that when Mother told Killian about the history of the creation of this scarf, he immediately bought it, but could not admit it even to himself. so he found the reason that he bought it because he did not want an unnecessary thing to remain at the Ludwig Bazaar. In the yard, Aaron heard some noise. She wanted to get angry when she said that the letter was sincere, but she knew that this was not the end. The Countess saw her brother. This angered her because he came without warning and not alone. Shane apologized for causing a commotion, but as he said that after Aaron left the Rigman house, her father's worries did not decrease. Sophia, Aaron's former maid, almost went crazy worrying about her mistress. The brother heard that even on the territory of the duchy, Aaron was being watched, and she could not attend her friend's tea party. The Countess began to resist that this was not true. Shane, in turn, did not stop pressing for pity. Killian entered the conversation, saying that in this case, let Sophia stay. She will become his wife's personal maid. Aaron was very outraged by this. She even shouted at her husband. The young master believed that the maid had been by her side since childhood, especially since the Count would worry less about her. The Countess began to resist this idea, but Sophia jumped up to her, hugged her, and did not allow her to say a word. The maid said that when she heard Mr. Shane's story about Aaron, she at first doubted its truth, but now she realized that it was all true. The girl thought, the episodes that will happen in the future will begin because of Sophia's actions, an investigation due to an information leak, and also an attempt at poisoning. The maid abruptly grabbed Aaron by the throat, trying to remind the stupid bitch who her master was, since she forgot who she served, suddenly finding herself free. Having fallen to the floor, the Countess immediately began to think about whether everything was okay with her ribs. Sophia hit those places that outsiders could not see. The maid did not expect that Aaron would decide to betray her family. The girl did not understand where everyone was so confident that the supporters of Archduke Langston would win. His Majesty the Emperor firmly held his power, and the family of Ludwig, loyal to him, proved in battles that they were not inferior to their emperor in military strength. The maid assured that the Ludwig family would fall sooner or later, she said with such confidence, as if she had already overthrown them. Aaron suggested imagining that the Langston family did take the throne of the emperor, and then asked Sophia if she had heard that henchmen who help in such a dirty way are disposed of first. This made the maid very angry. She decided that the Countess had completely lost her fear, since she was ridiculing her masters. Sophia warned Aaron that she could continue to pretend to be a stupid doll, as the owner demanded, but if she became useless to the family, she would finish her off, and the Ludwig family would be guilty of death. The Countess understood that the working day was coming to an end. She really did not want to return to the maid. As soon as Sophia set foot on the threshold of the estate, she took away those grains of freedom that Aaron had. She not only beat her, but also forced her to starve, taking away food. When the Countess tried to be sarcastic, the maid grabbed her by the hair and began to beat her. Even in a past life, the girl was not treated like this. She did not think that she could withstand such an attitude towards herself. Aaron had dealt with this since she was a child, and when she thought of her never having tried to resist a beating, it made her not give up. Renan noticed that the Countess liked the cookies today. It turned out that she ate the entire plate and didn't even notice it. The Baron suggested asking the servants to bring a second plate of cookies, but the girl refused. While in her room, she regretted that she had refused the supplement. How could she have known that Renan was going on a business trip for a week? Aaron had gotten used to eating in her bedroom since she was put on probation. Anna usually brought food from the kitchen to her room, so no one suspected Sophia when she started doing the same. Besides, it had been a long time since Killian came over for breakfast together. Aaron seemed to be starting to get confused from hunger and decided to go for a walk before Sophia ate her dinner. The maid personally trained Aaron for several years. She did not understand how the girl could change in such a short period of time. Even after the slap, the Countess did not recoil in fear. It seemed that Sophia had lost control over her, and even after the beating, she looked straight into the eyes and was defiant. the maid decided to try something new to teach Aaron some sense of reason. On the corridor, Sophia heard someone's familiar voice calling the Countess. It was Lizzie Sinclair. She invited Aaron, if she wasn't too busy, to have tea with them. Before arriving at the Duke's estate, Shane asked Sophia for a special favor. He asked her to collect information about Lizzie Sinclair, how she was doing on the estate, and what things she liked, whether there was anything unusual in the estate, and to write all the collected information in a letter. Sophia couldn't even dream of becoming Shane's wife. It was always enough for her to be there. Now that she was nearby, she saw that the guy was openly interested in this illegitimate girl. The maid could not stand by while the girl, with her innocent appearance, seduced her master. Aaron was already starting to feel dizzy from hunger. No matter what she ate with Lizzie, Sophia was sure to make her clear her stomach. There was no point in trying the pie, knowing where it would end up later. And besides, Killian was boring into her with a pitiful look. The maid brought Aaron a peach pie, which Lisi handed over to her. It looked like she would have to give in once so that people wouldn't begin to suspect that the lady was starving. The Countess didn't care what Sophia was up to, since she wanted to eat at least a piece of something. After eating one small piece, Aaron fell to the floor, blood flowing from her mouth, and the coughing did not stop. With a joyful face, Sophia screamed for her mistress to hold on. The maid went straight to Lizzie, accusing her of poisoning the pie. The girl tried to defend herself against this accusation, but the maid did not let her say a word. Everything was like in the original novel. Lisi's pie was poisoned in order to frame the girl later. Killian came to Aaron's room. The Countess tried to tell him something, but Sophia shut her mouth, insisting that she couldn't talk now, but only needed to rest. Having gathered her strength, the Countess nevertheless closed the maid's mouth, apologizing to Lizzie for Sophia's behavior, explaining that she simply had a stomach ache. The maid began to shout that this was all nonsense, because the mistress was coughing up blood. But even here Aaron was not at a loss, citing the fact that she seemed to have an allergy to peaches. Cliff did not find this situation funny at all, and he ordered a search of the entire room. Aaron didn't think they would find evidence in this room. Sophia had probably already gotten rid of everything. In the rack, Anna found some suspicious vessel, which she immediately told the gentleman about. The maid didn't even try to hide the vessel. The bottle had a too loud sticker with a skull on it. Aaron immediately said that it was not her bottle. Cliff, of course, did not believe it, but said that he would sort it out later. Taking the bottle with him, the guy left. He was waiting very much to deal with the new stream of excuses. Sophia was furious. She did not expect that the young master would think of searching the room. Aaron mocked her. The girl pretended to be the smartest one, but in fact she didn't even think of hiding the evidence. The maid threatened that if the Countess said anything else, she would finish her off. In any case, nothing would help her get out of this situation. The doctor told Cliff that the vial did not contain a strong poison, but in a weakened person it would cause pain or even bleeding. When his brother left, Killian turned to the doctor with a request to give him medicine that would ease Aaron's severe pain. The doctor had already prescribed a painkiller, but she didn't think it would help Killian's wife. The guy didn't understand what she was talking about because the girl had received a strong dose of poison. The woman explained that since Aaron had been starving for several days, even a weak poison could be fatal. Among women, there are often those who are ready to starve in order to lose excess weight. Killian could not believe that his wife was one of them. The young master couldn't wrap his head around the situation that, knowing about her weakened body, Aaron decided to poison herself. Killian came to the conclusion that she was definitely up to something, but was that really true? Before their marriage, the Countess had a reputation as a woman who attracted male attention, and such shots are quickly forgotten by society. If you follow this reasoning, then the whole situation with the poison did not happen in order to frame Lisi, but to attract attention to itself. Killian found it hard to believe that all he could do was sit and watch her suffer. The young master asked why she decided to take poison, It turned out that at that moment, Erin was conscious and heard everything. She quietly whispered that she thought that he would think that she did it on purpose. Seeing that she had woken up, Killian rushed to her, but the girl asked him to leave. It seemed that the Countess had long ago stopped hoping for his kind attitude towards him, but even now his words hurt. In the end, only Lizzie stood up for her, announcing to everyone that she believed that there was another reason for this poisoning. Cliff tried to convince the little goddess that she herself saw a bottle of poison in Erin's room, and that the bottle and the pie contained the same poison. Lizzie asked a logical question. If the Countess really tried to set her up, then why, when she woke up, she only complained of a slight malaise? The girl sincerely did not understand why everyone thought that Erin wanted to harm her. After all, everyone knew that she was the same age as her. No one had any idea how impatiently Lizzie was looking forward to her arrival, and she was still confident that they could become good friends. Erin asked her mother what things Lizzie liked. She wanted to give her a gift. The Duchess thought this idea was wonderful. The Countess decided to express her gratitude to the girl with a gift decorated with gorgeous white paper and a silk bow. Finally, her body completely recovered from the illness, and she could start working. The girl was very happy about this. Killian burst into the room shouting what Erin Ludwig had done. The young master asked if she would deny everything again or what, but the girl didn't even understand what she was talking about and demanded that everything be explained first. It turned out that Lizzie lost consciousness just when she was embroidering with threads donated by Erin. The girl was poisoned. The Countess could not believe it. The threads were packaged by the seller, after which Erin immediately gave them to Lizzie, during which time no one could touch them. In the original novel, at this time there would be an attempt to poison the little goddess. Sophia applied the poison to the tip of an embroidery needle that was part of the gift. Erin thought that she could change the events by changing the contents of the gift. Killian grabbed the Countess by the hand and demanded to know what she had done. The girl asked to suspect her at least for a moment and think soberly about whether, after that situation with the pie, she could have acted so stupidly. The young master said that the problem is not that he doesn't want to believe her, but that this is not the first time this has happened. Erin tried to explain to him that she didn't want to be suspected of everything, especially since the guy even assigned a maid to keep an eye on her. Sophia heard this conversation and began to shout what the mistress meant. The mistress said that since she was not guilty, it was not so important, but she definitely needed a better maid. Killian seemed to understand her request and agreed, saying that he would call Anna right away. The young master immediately ordered Anna to be Erin's maid again. The guy returned to his wife's room. He solved her problem. Now he demanded reciprocity from her, so that she would tell what happened to Lizzie. The Countess asked about the conversation with the merchant, but the man had already been interrogated, especially since he was famous enough to set himself up like that. As for access to Lizzie's room, only a limited number of people could go there. The maids, the girl herself, Cliff, him, and their mother. Erin's words sounded like an excuse, but someone was clearly trying to make a scapegoat out of her. She was sure that they were trying to harm Lizzie with impunity. If the girl gets seriously hurt, Erin will be punished for it. Thus someone will kill two birds with one stone. Killian didn't understand what she meant by this, so he demanded to know. For example, Earl Sinclair. There were rumors that the half-brother and sister tried to harm Lizzie more than once. This was the first time the young master had heard of such things, but he couldn't deny the possibility. In fact, among the many servants in this estate, at least one spy of the Earl of Sinclair could be found, but it was impossible to detect him. Also, Erin suggested that it could be the Ludwigs, in order to discredit the Rigman families. This version made Killian furious. He began to shout how a girl could say such vile things. He began to claim that his family would never do this. But in her defense, Erin said, because he himself suspected her, although she was close to death, the master still did not believe her. This time, Killian accepted the Countess's guesses, but he did not think that his father and brother would believe it. Aaron understood all this, and, to be honest, she didn't even want to be found innocent, with the exception of Lizzie, while the little goddess, who saw all the injustice due to the Rigman family's past, came to her defense. Lizzie would be very disappointed if it turned out that the Countess's gift was a tool in an attempt to poison her. Killian assumed that Aaron hated Lizzie, since everyone praised her, unlike the Countess. Approaching the young master closer, the girl said that she was Aaron Ludwig. She would become jealous of another girl because of some kind of praise. After what was said, she immediately became embarrassed. She did not think that she would ever say such a thing. Killian abruptly pulled Aaron closer by her hair and kissed her. After the kiss, the guy pulled away abruptly and, leaving the room, apologized for his action. Aaron was left sitting in bewilderment because of the strangeness of her husband. A few days later, Anna came to the mistress's room to say about the end of the probationary period. Since this poison was too rare, it was difficult to establish its origin, so due to insufficient evidence, the charge was dropped. All this was very strange. Aaron thought that Lisi would believe her, but since the poison was too dangerous, the girl never came to her senses. Since things have gone too far, Cliff will obviously not be able to turn a blind eye to this. Upon learning of the end of the probationary period, Catherine became furious. She believed that no matter how crazy Langston was, this would not be allowed. Cliff himself was surprised. If such a thing could be expected from his father, then from Killian this act was more than strange. The princess was even more angry that since then they had not even tried to contact Lizzie. Everyone thought that everything was fine. Considering this unacceptable, the girl decided to have a hand in this herself. What was surprising was that even the Duchess, whom the girl trusted so much, did not say anything about this. If it were not for the Emperor's ban on leaving the palace, Catherine was ready to immediately go to Lizzie. Killian believed that in any case, nothing could be changed because too many people could penetrate into the chambers of the little goddess. The younger brother understood that Cliff had become an idiot because it concerned Lisi and did not even notice that the poison was too strong. It's unlikely that Aaron would have been able to use the poison without catching anyone's eye. Were the guards at the Ludwig estate really that incompetent? The father agreed that Killian's theory was correct. At this point, the father decided to close this topic. In any case, after the incident with the pie, the maid's belongings were regularly searched, and it would be difficult to prove where they could get the poison. They decided to keep the details secret until the investigation progressed further. Smiling maliciously, Cliff asked Catherine how she felt about the fact that his father would soon visit the palace. The girl couldn't understand how this could have happened at all. In the original novel, it's not that she wouldn't have gone with the Duke in the same carriage. She wouldn't have even set foot in the palace. A few hours earlier, in the Duchess's office, a woman asked the Countess how she was feeling. Aaron looked much better. All this was thanks to Anna. As soon as the girl became her maid again, everything seemed to fall into place. Renan was interested in Aaron's well-being, so Mother asked if the girl was ready to help him again. The Countess agreed with great joy. The Countess could help the Baron from today, but before that, Princess Catherine wanted to meet her in her palace. Aaron was confused, although her mother explained that the Emperor and Princess had been friends with their family for a long time. They treated Lizzie very warmly, and now they decided to get to know her. The Countess did not know what the real reason was, but she was sure that it was definitely not her. Princess Catherine is known for not observing not only palace etiquette, but also general etiquette. Moreover, she always does as she pleases. She was known for her tomboyish nature, wearing a short haircut and refusing to wear dresses. It was even said that the princess often broke in wild horses and only became soft and sweet next to Lizzie. In the palace, she was the only living soul unlimited by rules. The girl really liked her when she read the novel. Aaron thought she was really cool with a sassy personality. She hoped she could get Catherine to side with her. When the princess first met Lizzie, she was accompanied by Cliff, her first love. Catherine felt intense jealousy towards Lizzie, who captivated his heart, but in the end, she, too, was charmed by Lizzie's kindness and began to care for her even more than for Cliff. Arriving at the palace, Erin stood opposite the princess and could not even open her mouth until she spoke to her first. Finally, Catherine asked if it was right that Rigmund's youngest daughter was standing in front of her. The countess replied that her name was Erin Ludwig. The princess noticed that her guest did not even bring tea, but then grinned that it was even better, because no one would poison her. After this phrase, the countess realized that Cliff had told her everything. Erin began to defend herself that she had never used poison. Yes, her behavior was not the best. She could not say anything except that the rumors that the princess listened to were only the result of a misunderstanding. Catherine realized that her guest knew everything, which means she should have known that Count Rigmund's request for this marriage was the same misunderstanding, since this marriage only caused Killian's suffering. Looking down, Erin admitted that it was her father's decision, and she was truly sorry that things had turned out this way. Now, many people wanted Catherine and her brother dead, so most of all they valued loyalty. "Isn't the Countess trying to gain her trust in this way?" the princess asked. Erin said that was completely wrong, and in fact, she really liked Princess Catherine. Towards the end of the novel, when Langston's coup had already been suppressed, there were several episodes where Lizzie and Catherine spent time together on Rue Rubemarie. The princess put on a wig to hide her identity and went shopping with Lizzie, wearing a dress for the first time in the entire novel, then having her own tea party with Lizzie's help. Over the course of the novel, she grew significantly as a character, becoming not only a leader, but also learning how to communicate with people. Erin thought that Catherine was simply following her own path, despite what others said. She loved that she was a princess who wanted to protect her own freedom. Erin said that she did not want to bring up again the words that she had heard from the nobles, admitting that she would trust the wise judgment of Her Highness, but she wanted Erin to understand. The Countess realized that she had screwed up again and tried to stop thinking about it and just work calmly in her office. When she was heading to the office, she was suddenly grabbed by the arm. It was Sophia. The maid said that she was giving Erin one and last chance. She was supposed to steal documents from the Duke's office. But if she betrays them again, then Sophia will kill her with her own hands. Sophia could not understand why the Countess still wouldn't die. Could it be that her stupidity was transmitted to this illegitimate daughter and all the inhabitants of the house through the air? The maid held Erin by the throat so that she didn't even touch the ground with her feet. The Rigmund henchman was sure that after the Countess poisoned Lizzie's threads, everyone finally came to their senses. But even this incident she turned in her favor. As the lady suspected, Lizzie's poisoning was not Sophia's doing. Finally releasing Erin's throat, Sophia warned that this was her last chance. The Countess asked what would happen if she was caught, but the maid said that in that case she would finish her off so that everyone would think that it was the work of the Ludwigs. Erin threatened to reveal all of Sophia's crimes, but she only laughed in response. The maid believed that the Countess was still silent, only because if she told, everyone would immediately turn away from her. As soon as everyone finds out that Erin was the Count's spy, Killian will be the first in line to throw her out of here. The lady didn't even think about it. Rather, she didn't tell everything, because the restrictions of the original novel prevented her. If the Countess stole the papers, then Sophia promised to put in a good word with her father for her. She believed that even such an idiot as Erin could cope with this task. The Countess decided to try to make a prediction, telling the maid that no matter what she did, the Rigman family would still end, mentioning also his brother, whom Sophia loved so much. Erin knocked on Renan's office, apologizing, asking if she was too late. This time it took her longer to change clothes than usual. Renan Filch said that it's okay, Erin can start work at this time. But there is quite a lot of work, but there is no need to rush. It is better to work at your own pace." The Countess was delighted. She had no reason to worry. It's been a long time since the girl felt so comfortable. The familiar smell of papers, cool air, the sound of a pen writing and just silence. Despite the fact that no one was looking over Erin's shoulder or trying to find fault while she was working, she needed to predict what others expected from her. Renan's office was the safest place the girl had ever been. After presenting the papers she had already completed, the Baron said that he kept thinking about how Erin worked skillfully and focused. The girl became embarrassed, and Renan added that if everyone worked so enthusiastically, he would not have to fire so many people. Erin helped him a lot, even if the task was simple. The documents were written out so neatly, right down to the smallest detail. He didn't even have anything to complain about. From what she heard, tears involuntarily flowed from the Countess's eyes. She felt very ashamed of her emotions. She immediately began to wipe the tears from her eyes. Renan took her hand and said that you shouldn't control your emotions, as if they would be punished for them. Taking a handkerchief from his pocket, he began to wipe Erin's tears, adding that if the girl hid them like this, then one day they would burst out. All this was observed by Killian, standing outside the door. After finishing her work, Erin walked down the corridor and thought about whether her husband went to visit Lizzie today. Killian heard that Erin had finished work, but decided not to show herself to anyone. Why would that be so suddenly? The girl looked at him with wide-open eyes, not understanding what he was talking about. Sitting down on her bed, he asked if their last meeting really disappointed her. Erin was in complete shock how this even happened. Killian was too close to her. Plucking up the courage, she asked if he meant that she was supposed to come to his room after work. He asked if that wasn't what she usually did, pretending to be innocent but still trying to seduce him. Erin understood that if we look at it from Killian's point of view, then, in principle, this is what happens. A depraved girl who is trying to distract attention from her lies with temptation. The young master admitted that the Countess had practically succeeded. He had behaved like a fool. Erin asked Killian if he had had too much alcohol. She pointed out something important, that she had not committed any crimes. She had no intention of seducing him that day. To put it bluntly, he simply misunderstood. This sounded too absurd for the young master. Erin was wearing such a vulgar dress. How could it be misunderstood? Killian believed that even if so, she tried to seduce him, but the result did not please her, so the Countess switched to other prey. These words made Erin furious. She screamed what he was even talking about, where she could find the second prey. The girl was always the subject of discussion among young aristocrats. Despite the fact that he did not want to hear rumors about her, they always reached his ears about how his wife liked to seduce men. Killian couldn't even count how many men had become Erin's victims, because it wasn't difficult for her to seduce anyone. In his opinion, all she had to do was beckon with her hand, and they would all run to her feet. Killian Ludwig knew absolutely nothing about Erin. This girl was far from being as stupid as the young master thought her, but she was not as treacherous as the men thought her. Unexpectedly, the Countess turned out to be a connoisseur of art, and it was easy to please her with food prepared by the Duke's cooks. In tense moments, Erin became calm and cool-headed, finding an appropriate response to any rudeness without losing her temper. No matter how hopeless the situation was, the girl always looked for a rational way out of the situation. In the end, she was even able to influence her father by bringing reasonable arguments, which no one expected. Killian thought, if you remember everything and compare it together, then everything fits together. For him, what was rather strange was that as soon as something happened, they immediately blamed it on Erin. This smart and proud girl pretended that she was not in pain, although everything was completely different. The Countess never showed her weakness in front of Killian and never even asked for help. Because Erin never talked about her difficulties, the young master thought that Renan was more to her liking. Killian found himself very easily agreeing with his inner voice, which told him that Aaron was bad. Renan was just acting like a worthy gentleman, and the Countess was taking advantage of it like a sly fox. Apparently, she was going to seduce the Baron, decided to take advantage of men's weakness for women's tears, and thus Aaron came out bad, the only bad person here. But this thought no longer swirled in the guy's head. It was now impossible to hide the fact that Killian Ludwig didn't know Aaron at all. Such wounds could not have been received by accident. Judging by the color of the bruises, they were not received a day or two ago. Until now, none of the servants had reported this. Killian asked who did it, but the girl was silent. Their servants would not remain silent about this, so the answer became obvious to him. Noticing Aaron's depressed state, Anna asked if she slept poorly, but the Countess assured her that she slept too well here. Last night, Killian asked her forgiveness for losing his temper. In truth, it wasn't that Aaron didn't like it. She didn't mind continuing. After all, the duties of a wife had to be fulfilled. The young master said that he was not the kind of animal to hug a man whose entire back was covered with bruises. After that, Killian left and Aaron went to bed. In the morning, she felt some kind of stickiness on her back. It was ointment. The only ones who knew that the Countess had bruises on her back were Killian and Sophia, which means Killian came at night and smeared ointment on her back. Aaron couldn't believe it because she was sleeping too soundly. Early in the morning, there was a knock on the Countess's door. It was Killian. He apologized for visiting so early, but the matter was urgent. Sophia was thrown in front of Aaron. The girl was tied up and screaming that she did not understand what she was accused of. She was sent by the Count to look after her mistress. This justification speech seemed simply ridiculous to Killian. He said that a maid who could not perform her duties should not be near Aaron. Sophia shouted that she had been with the mistress since childhood. She was trained specifically to become her servant. Killian was adamant. He asked what kind of maid she was. Not only that, knowing about her mistress's bruises, she did not report them. She also did not help cure them. The guy said directly that when he thought about who could have inflicted these injuries, only she came to mind. Sophia began to make excuses for why she did not report such minor abrasions to her mistress. Killian immediately interrupted her, offering to inflict a couple of minor abrasions on her. The young master reminded that he and Aaron were married, but knowing this, the maid hoped that clothes would hide these wounds, and thus decided to hide the marks. Even thinking about it was ridiculous. It turned out that the Count was demanding the return of his maid in good condition. Killian warned his wife that he didn't need her permission to kick Sophia out. Now Aaron was on Anna, and the young master promised to see to it that this precious maid was sent back in their carriage. Anna asked the lady if she would allow her to examine her body. This was not a problem for the Countess, so she immediately agreed. Taking off her dress and seeing Aaron's back, the maid could not contain her emotions. She asked why the girl had not told anyone about this until now. Lowering her eyes, Anna began to reproach herself for not noticing anything. The girl received a notification that if the conditions of the second stage are not met that day, she will be punished. It all turned out too strange. She never worried about not being able to fulfill the conditions of the stage. If you think about it, everything was too strange from the very beginning. Most Aarons would be glad that they were reborn with a golden spoon in their mouth, and then act in much the same way from start to finish. First of all, they try not to follow the path of the villain, and be kind. However, as soon as they move into the Duke's house, they fall in love with either Cliff or Killian. They try to win the love of characters who don't even want to look at them, trying to go with the flow of the original plot until they realize that they can't change anything after the document leak incident. They begin to panic and lose their composure, instead of clearly and calmly proving their innocence. That wasn't all. She also took control of minor characters that the black-hooded man couldn't control, as if she knew that the characters who were rarely mentioned in the original were not so much subject to its laws. It couldn't be said that Aaron was deliberately being nice to characters who might benefit her. As soon as the unknown person began to think that he had won, the girl immediately changed tactics in order to fulfill the conditions of the first stage. No matter how many conditions were met, the influence of the original novel ceased to be so strong. In the first stage, only minor characters could influence the events. But why did Killian do it? The unknown person was angry that everything was getting out of his control. Having collected his thoughts, he began to reassure himself that everything was for the better. All this would help highlight the main character even more. All he had to do was try, choosing the 13th Aaron on the screen. He gave her a chance. Thus, the requirements for the second stage were established. Cliff was angry that his brother allowed Sophia to simply leave without finding out anything, but she could be behind Lisey's poisoning. Killian believed that if they began to investigate without significant evidence, they would be accused of illegally detaining the Rigman maid. The young master thought they were lucky to get rid of the maid they didn't like. Finally, Lizzie entered the conversation, saying that she did not want to return to this topic anymore. Even if the Sinclairs or someone else were behind all this, the only thing that remained was that someone really disliked the girl. She didn't want to know who it was, because she knew that it would hurt her. Killian was glad that Lizzie supported his words. If it was known that Erin was not Count Rigman's favorite daughter, then this marriage between families with strained relations would be in jeopardy, which is why the girl remained silent. Killian stood lost in his own thoughts when his brother interrupted him, asking if he was ignoring the sick Lisey because he was thinking about Erin. The little goddess laughed. On the contrary, she was glad, because she was not sure that she could cope with so much attention to herself. Lisey wanted to ask Killian to take care of Erin while she was recovering. She kept thinking how hard it was for her after the poisoning. The girl knew that she was visited by her brother, and the Countess endured her suffering alone. That's why she wanted Killian to console Erin, who was still having such a hard time. Lizzie suggested that they drink tea together, take a walk, talk, and be as kind to the Countess as she was to her. The lady sat in her room and thought that her husband must have noticed the situation she was in. Did she really receive sympathy from the main male character? In fact, she knew that the probability of being thrown out the door was not so high. After all, she, as a character, was more important than Sophia, and according to the laws of the original, she could not be thrown out like that, since the girl had to experience many more key moments. She was more concerned that there were events involving Sophia that did not happen. Erin knew that she had to be even more vigilant now. Killian might have warmed to her situation, but she couldn't rely on him completely, so she still had to prove that she wasn't a threat. Now the young master saw the Countess as a woman who was trying to seduce him so that he would help her get out of a bad situation. She decided that she would definitely make him think about her differently. The next day, Killian invited Erin to have tea together. She happily agreed. The Countess thanked him for the invitation. The guy thought about it. It was probably a surprise for her. Another day later, Killian invited her to have dinner together. But Erin laughed it off, saying that she thought the Duke was somewhat uncomfortable when she was around, so she didn't want to ruin the family dinner. Ever since Lizzie was poisoned, her father had really felt uncomfortable around her, and Erin probably felt the same. Another day later, the young master invited the girl to take a walk in the park, since the weather was beautiful outside. The Countess politely refused, saying that the sun was too hot and she would prefer to stay inside. Having received another refusal, Killian could not understand whether his wife was really uncomfortable with him, but where he made a mistake. He did this not only because of Lizzie's request. The young master still thought that Erin was a real snake, but maybe not as bad as everyone described her. Just when Killian thought he had figured out all her motives, the truth about such a complex situation was revealed. That's why the guy thought, because it would be best to get to know her by being alone. But he didn't think that it would be so difficult to do. He decided to try again, telling Erin that they had delivered strawberry tarts from Peridot's patisserie, inviting them to try it together. The girl started drooling after she presented these tarts that she was so excited to try. Once again, Erin refused, citing the fact that she had recently gained a little weight. The girl decided that no matter how much Killian tested her, she would not fall for it. She would be a grateful, obedient, and sweet wife, as long as he did not disturb her peace. 3 days later, after all the young master's invitations, Lisi asked Erin if maybe she was disappointed in the guy. The Countess immediately began to deny this, saying that her husband never disappointed her for a moment. On the contrary, she was even grateful to him because he took care of her in his own way. Then Lizzie asked directly why, in this case, Erin pushes Killian away. The Countess wanted her words to be understood correctly. She felt sorry for her husband. For the sake of the dukedom, he had to give up his desires. Marriages of convenience were commonplace when it was a marriage with a girl from a family he hated. Erin didn't want Killian to spend time with her just because of obligations. That's all she could tell Lizzie. The little goddess began to claim that this was not true, but the Countess did not think so. Every day the young gentleman came to her with different proposals, and Vera came to Renan's office and watched how she worked. This time the guy was more persistent. He found out that Erin had nothing to do after work, so he invited her to the opera. The Countess admitted that she didn't need it. Let him go with Lizzie better. She seemed to feel better. Killian's patience got out of control. He began to shout at the girl about what she thought of him. The Countess was confused by such a question. All she could answer was that he was her husband. The girl thought, if this is part of the test, then she shouldn't have said that. They were only in a marriage of convenience, where their union existed only in documents. It was a sudden duty that fell on Killian as a member of the ducal family. The young master was put in shackles, which dashed his last hopes of marrying his loved one. Killian flared up, saying that if she didn't want to spend time with him, then she wanted to be with someone else. The guy suggested that it was Renan. Erin did not understand what the Baron had to do with it. It no longer looked like the young master was pretending. The Countess extended her hand to his face, but Killian removed it, saying that if he was only a husband on paper, then he just needed to play the role of an accommodating stallion. Erin began to deny this, but the guy no longer listened to her. He only apologized for his slowness. Instead of just leaving, he pulled the girl towards him and kissed her passionately. The thought flashed through the Countess's head that Killian had misunderstood her, but all she could utter were loud sighs. The conditions of the second stage were fulfilled. Due to the occurrence of exceptional events, the influence of the author was reduced. The girl understood how it all happened. Her luck in this world did not increase. The condition of the second stage was to refuse Killian 10 times. Just as she thought, whoever was behind all this was just playing with her. He knew how she felt about the young master and took advantage of it. If the girl had not changed her mind in time, she would not have fulfilled this condition. Thanks to this, she was even closer to becoming the goddess of the world. The unknown man was furious. He did not understand how the girl managed it so quickly, how she was able to receive an invitation from the person she likes 10 times. Previously, no one could fulfill the conditions of the second stage. Now, even over the main characters, the influence of the unknown has fallen. He didn't know what he would do. If the girl fulfilled the conditions of the third stage, then he would completely lose the power of the author. The influence of the original would fall. The plot of the novel will develop under the influence of the desires of the characters. And even when the original story comes to an end, time will not stop there. Sweet Lizzie will grow older and eventually die. The unknown person tried to establish the conditions of the third stage, but everything was unacceptable. Erin kept touching Killian's muscles. It amused him, but she was very interested in touching them. The guy pulled her closer, saying that her body was much more interesting. The Countess did not understand how he learned to leave such gentle touches. Killian decided to clarify Erin's words that she doesn't want him to be just a stud. Is this true? She confirmed, but it was very strange why he was asking about this, as if it was important to him what she thought about him. It was definitely not pity. The guy wouldn't have gone that far because of it. Of course, knowing how powerful the original novel is, it was clearly not love. The only thing Aaron had left was carnal desires or loneliness. The girl was well acquainted with Killian's story. No matter how hard he tried, he could never surpass his brother. After all, Cliff was the main male character who had everything: the heir to the title, all the attention of his parents, and their expectations were placed on him. Even the girl she loved saw only her older brother. Aaron asked her husband what she needed to do to make him trust her. The Countess and Killian came to the theater. The girl was amazed by the huge hall and hanging chandeliers. But her companion did not understand her surprise because she was already in the theater. She admitted that this was the first time. The young gentleman did not understand how this was possible, that the girl had never been to the largest opera house in the capital. Aaron knew about opera, but art, music, and even books were beyond her reach, all because of the father, who was afraid that his daughter would know more than she needed. The name of the tragedy was Odelette. The story begins with Odelette, the daughter of a ruined viscount, going into the forest to pick raspberries. In the forest, she discovers the wounded Laszlo. A compassionate girl helps him. The guy has lost his memory and decides to stay with Odelette until his wounds heal. However, in reality, he is a prince from a neighboring country who fled an internecine war. Soon the two fall in love with each other. But the Viscount, after much deliberation, for the sake of the well-being of the family, forces his daughter to marry Hubert, a wealthy baron living next door. Laszlo persuades Odeletta to run away together for the sake of their love, but Baron Hubert, knowing that the girl loves another, decides to seduce her with his wealth. Aaron spent almost the entire opera in tears. The opera seemed very interesting to her. If she had known that the opera was so incredible, she would not have refused to attend it so much. Killian asked his companion if she were in Odelette's place, who would she choose? Aaron would have chosen Hubert and would not have committed suicide. According to the girl, Laszlo was a very bad person. He knew what situation his beloved was in, but hid his identity. Killian believed that if Odelette had loved Laszlo, she would not have fallen for the Baron's money. Aaron decided to close this topic, since they were clearly starting to argue. In any case, she liked the opera. Killian invited his wife to take a walk around the city if she wasn't tired yet. Walking around the city, the girl felt a little awkward. She thought that the young master must have often walked like this with other girls. Aaron's attention was drawn to a little girl selling flowers. The Countess approached her to find out how much all her flowers would cost. The girl couldn't believe that they wanted to buy all the flowers, so she asked again several times. Killian intervened in the conversation. He handed over a stack of bills, asking if this was enough. The young master did not like the fact that Aaron was going to buy flowers for herself, since she would be the first aristocrat in the empire to buy flowers for herself when her husband is nearby. The girl admitted that she had never been given flowers before, but Killian turned everything around, saying that she had probably never been given such a limp bouquet before. For Aaron, this bouquet was perfect. The girl's parents were not the kind of people who spent money on useless bouquets, and there was nothing to say about her ex-boyfriend. She was sure that the real Aaron had no end to those who sent her bouquets, but the flowers never reached the hands of the Countess herself. The girl did not think that it would touch her so much after all. These were the first flowers in her past and present life. Changing the topic, she invited Killian to see what else they were selling here. On a city street, a clown entertaining the crowd approached Aaron. He pulled her into his arms. The girl began to scream. She was afraid of clowns. Killian immediately approached, extending his hand to the Countess. He asked to let his wife go. Aaron couldn't believe he called her his wife in public. In fact, all this was created only for one girl, the main character. These beautiful streets, squares, attractions, all this was invented only for the main characters of the novel. Now, Aaron was enjoying a walk through these places with Killian. She wondered if this could all be due to the fact that she had fulfilled the conditions of the second stage. She wanted to know if the young master's attitude towards her had changed due to the fulfillment of the conditions of the second stage, whether she and he would be freed from the restrictions of the original romance if she fulfilled the conditions of the third stage. Aaron dreamed that they would just love each other, sometimes be sad, sometimes happy, and in the end, just find their happiness. No matter how much Killian thought about it, he still couldn't understand it. Because the girl was interested in art, he almost invited her to the opera, but he was afraid that she would be bored. He thought that she had gone to the theater with other men countless times. He could not even imagine that Aaron would cry like a child after watching Odalette. Moreover, I could not think that Aaron Rigman had never received a bouquet of flowers as a gift in her life. Killian seemed glad that it was her first time, but the guy seemed to be going crazy. The guy's thoughts were interrupted by the sudden appearance of Lizzie. She wanted to tell him that she had listened to how someone had seen Aaron being the one who applied poison to embroidery threads. It was one of the maids. She suddenly packed her things and left the mansion. Cliff had been looking for her all day. Killian was interested in why this suddenly happened now, why she didn't tell earlier, and how Cliff even knew about it. But Lisi had no answers to these questions. Cliff said that he would figure it out himself, but the little goddess decided that his brother should know about it. Lizzie wanted to find support in Killian's eyes, that he also did not believe that Aaron did this. The guy heard some strange voice, as if in his head, which insisted that this was the work of this insidious woman. Killian began to reassure Lizzie that whoever it was, there was no need to worry. It was Aaron. She had no reason to do something like that. If you think about it logically, even if Count Rigman ordered Aaron to commit murder, it would make no sense for him to kill Lizzie, who has no power, instead of any other member of the Ludwig family. Although the girl had smaller reasons to be jealous of Lizzie, Killian did not think that his wife was jealous of the little goddess. On the contrary, instead of fighting for his attention, she distanced herself from his proposals. Killian believed that the real culprit could easily get close to someone in their family, which meant questioning the other maids working at the estate. But Lisi didn't want this to escalate into something serious. The young master assured the girl that she had nothing to worry about. But next time, if Cliff wanted to do something behind his back, she would have to tell him too. 3 days after visiting the opera, Killian had lunch with Aaron every day without exception. She did not understand what he now needed from her if during the date he found all the answers to his questions. The Countess reminded her husband that he had said that he had a lot of work to do today, to which he replied that she was late. He had already returned to work, and in the end called her his wife. Since the guy didn't understand the hints, she decided to ask him directly why he suddenly began to behave this way. Killian did not understand the question. He believed that they were spouses, and there was nothing wrong with them having dinner and lunch together. He decided to admit, even though it was too late to say it. But the guy made a lot of mistakes, and from that moment on, he wanted to get to know Aaron for real.